Chapter 739. Zhao Fu looked at the Night Dynasty's women. All of them were incredibly beautiful, and in this ancient world, those in power could forcefully gather beautiful women. This time, Zhao Fu had only brought 32 of them. As for the women who were not as beautiful and did not have much blood relations with them, Zhao Fu did not bring them all. Otherwise, there would have been at least a few hundred of them. This was because the Night Dynasty's king had many concubines and princesses. The other factions also had concubines and concubines, as well as princesses. Adding all of them together, there were many. The main reason why Zhao Fu had brought them here was to fulfill Yi Tsong's promise. Zhao Fu was someone who kept his promises, and he would do as he promised. The Night Dynasty's most beautiful and blood-related women were gathered here, and they could fulfill Yi Tsong's request. The first was the Night Dynasty's Empress Qian. She had a mature figure and exquisite looks, and she looked incredibly alluring. She was the mother of the previous legatee, but after the previous legatee had died, she had lost her power. The second was concubine Shui, who was the Night Dynasty's most beloved concubine. She was extremely beautiful and had a graceful figure. Her skin was tender, and she gave off a gentle aura. The third was Princess Yi, who was naturally quite beautiful and had a tall and slim figure. She had a unique intellectual aura, but she was already married and had been forcefully brought here. Of course, her mother was also a rare beauty, so Zhao Fu had brought her here as well. The fourth was concubine Lu, a concubine from another faction. She looked quite domineering and had a pretty face and a slim figure. The fifth was the South concubine, who was quite beautiful and had snow-white skin. She looked like a good wife and mother. The sixth was the South concubine's daughter, the princess. She was 16 years old and had snow-white skin. She had a slim figure and looked quite cute. The seventh was concubine Nong. She had a pretty face and a seductive figure, and she looked like a flirtatious woman. The eighth was concubine Jiang. She wore a green dress and had top-grade looks. She gave off a gentle and quiet aura, and she was most likely a woman who liked to read. Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong to sit on the throne and said, "This king didn't call you here for any reason. From now on, you are this king's women. Serve this king well, and this king won't harm you or your families." Yi Tsong's words caused different expressions to appear on the faces of the women below. Some were submissive because Yi Tsong now held great power, and if they did not listen to him, not only would they die, but their families would also suffer. Some were furious because they were noble concubines, and yet they had to serve him. Princess Yi was the first to stand out and angrily glared at Yi Tsong as she said coldly, "You licentious fellow, you dare to do such a beastly thing? Do you know that everyone here is related to you by blood? They're your stepmother, aunt, and little sister, and this princess is also your big sister." Yi Tsong loudly laughed. "Are you treating me as one of your own now? Everything you've done, have you ever treated me as one of your own? I will take revenge for everything you have done." As he spoke, Zhao Fu was affected by Yi Tsong's memories, and he also became incredibly furious and hateful. Princess Yi stood her ground and did not seem weak at all as she looked at Yi Tsong and said resolutely, "Even if I die, I won't submit to you. I only have one man, and that's my son-in-law." Yi Tsong did not reply, and Zhao Fu smiled as he walked towards her. He quite liked this resolute woman, and seeing Zhao Fu walk over, Princess Yi said harshly, "What are you doing?" Zhao Fu did not reply, and he went up and hugged her before kissing her on the lips. Very soon, Princess Yi sank into it and started to do it with Zhao Fu, continuously moaning. This caused the remaining women to feel quite disdainful. She had been so chaste and resolute just moments ago, but now that she had been done by a man, she had become so lewd. Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong to go up and pick up Empress Qian. She was his father's empress, and according to seniority, she was his stepmother. However, Zhao Fu did not mind and controlled Yi Tsong to kiss her. Empress Qian had long since submitted, and the two of them started to passionately kiss before going at it. Because of this taboo relationship, Empress Qian's reaction became even more intense, and she continuously demanded, It was a pity that Zhao Fu had wanted to use Yi Tsong's body to fulfill his wish. After all, he had taken over Yi Tsong's body and obtained the Night Dynasty because of him. It was a pity that Zhao Fu found that his body could not even handle a single Empress Qian. His body was quite weak and did not have any power. However, Empress Qian was the empress of a dynasty and had a massive amount of fate. She was not someone that ordinary men could handle. By now, Zhao Fu was doing it with Princess Ye's mother. Seeing how Zhao Fu was torturing her daughter, she felt quite pained and took the initiative to go up and bear it for her daughter. Soon, she also collapsed to the ground, and Zhao Fu picked up the incredibly thirsty Empress Qian. Looking at the handsome man in front of her, Empress Qian took the initiative to kiss Zhao Fu because she knew that Zhao Fu could give her the pleasure she wanted. Zhao Fu also started to kiss her and pressed her down on the table before going at it with her. However, even though Zhao Fu and Yi Tsong were the same person, Empress Qian did not know that the situation was as if she was being done by two men, and the last one made her go crazy. After this feast, Zhao Fu carried the sleeping women to a bed and left the room feeling refreshed. If it was an ordinary man, they would be incredibly tired, but Zhao Fu was incredibly spirited. This was the power of a celestial's art. Now that the Night Dynasty was under Zhao Fu's control, and he had taken the Night Dynasty's women, he had fulfilled the Night Dynasty's first wish. Zhao Fu planned to bring these women back to Qin City. On one hand, they could provide Phoenix Qi, and on the other hand, Zhao Fu wanted to use the Night Dynasty's power to expand. If they found out that he had taken the Night Dynasty's women, they would most likely fight to the death with Zhao Fu. Now, Zhao Fu could announce to the outside world that he had taken them as hostages. Another reason was that Zhao Fu did not want anyone else to touch the women that he had touched before. After coming outside, there was a blood-red moon in the sky. The moon in the dark demon world was blood-red, and Zhao Fu looked at it with interest. At that moment, Yi Ningshuang walked over and asked, "Why did Yi Tsong hit those women together?" Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, "To fulfill a promise." Yi Ningshuang coldly harumphed and said somewhat angrily, "That promise was to be taken by you?" Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and looked at her as he asked, "How did you know?" Yi Ningshuang walked over to Zhao Fu's side and pinched Zhao Fu as she said, "You bad fellow, do you think I can't sense so much of a woman's aura on your body? If you don't satisfy me today, I'll cut off your bad thing later." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and hugged her with his arms, following which moans sounded out in the night. Chapter 740. After reading her letter, Zhao Fu thought of Yi Tsong's second wish. If it had been Yi Tsong who had read this letter, he would have been incredibly excited. It was a pity that it was Zhao Fu who was reading it. Zhao Fu had long since known that it was Mo Yao heir who had purposely leaked this information to the Night Dynasty. Mo Yao heir was quite scheming. In actuality, Yi Tsong's experiences were quite similar to his. He was also an outsider who had obtained the dynasty's legacy, but the outcome was completely different. Yi Tsong's ending was quite pitiful. Not only had his family suffered a disaster, but he himself had also died. Zhao Fu had become a world-class expert, and if he had stupidly gone to the Ying family back then, his ending would have been similar. Thinking of Yi Tsong's second wish, Zhao Fu wrote a letter filled with love and jealousy based on Yi Tsong's memories and ordered people to deliver it to the Demon Path sect. Following this, Zhao Fu went to a room where the four ancestors were. Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong to walk in and smiled as he bowed to the four ancestors, saying, "Greetings, ancestors." Now that the four ancestors were imprisoned by Zhao Fu, their attitudes were naturally not very good. They only coldly harumphed and ignored Yi Tsong. Yi Tsong did not mind and said, "Ancestors, since things have come to this, I've already inherited the Night Dynasty and become its emperor. I hope that you will continue to serve the Night Dynasty, and I will respect you just like everyone else in the Night Dynasty." Hearing Yi Tsong's words, the four ancestors coldly harumphed and ignored him. Yi Tsong did not give up and said, "Aren't you afraid that the Night Dynasty's hundreds of years of foundation will be destroyed by me? I don't have a strong sense of belonging to the Night Dynasty. Perhaps I'll even destroy it." These words caused the four ancestors to feel incredibly furious. The Night Dynasty was their family, and it was the result of many generations of hard work. It was the Yi family's blood, sweat, and tears, and it was the most important thing to them. Hearing the Night Dynasty say such a thing, of course they were furious. Yi Tsong continued to try to persuade them, saying, "Ancestors, even if you don't serve me, you should at least consider the Night Dynasty. You're all working for the Night Dynasty, and as long as you're willing to work, I promise that nothing will happen to the Night Dynasty and that it will become more powerful." The four ancestors did not reply and continued to think to themselves. In the end, the four ancestors decided to compromise, and Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. One of them could fight against 8 city lords, and 4 of them could fight against 32 city lords. They were definitely high-end forces, and it would be best to subdue them. A faction could not lack high-end forces, and they would be a great deterrent. Seeing that they were willing to compromise, Yi Tsong took out 4 ginseng fruits and gave them to the 4 ancestors. After looking at the ginseng fruits information, the ancestors looked delighted. At their age, what they lacked the most was lifespan. After the 4 ancestors accepted the ginseng fruits, their relationship with Yi Tsong became better. Now, the Night Dynasty did not have many factions, and the power of the Night Dynasty was in Zhao Fu's hands. Zhao Fu wanted to form them into a force and expand outwards. Now, the Night Dynasty controlled 12 regions, 30 great cities, and 5 basic cities. There was a great disparity between their strength and that of Qin City, so they needed to develop. Zhao Fu wanted to develop the Night Dynasty into a massive faction and use it as the Dark Demon World's largest chess piece to secretly control the Dark Demon World. This would be incredibly important to Great Qin in the future and to the entire human world. After taking care of these matters, a few days passed. Zhao Fu changed his attitude towards the outside world and started to make friends with the surrounding countries. Right now, the Night Dynasty's main force was focused on conquering regions. This caused the surrounding countries to let out a sigh of relief. Facing the powerful Night Dynasty, they felt great pressure, and they all accepted the Night Dynasty's friendly actions. At the same time, they also expressed their friendliness towards the Night Dynasty, and the tense situation around the Night Dynasty settled down. Over the next few days, Zhao Fu and Mo Yao Er continued to exchange letters. By now, Mo Yao Er was sure that Yi Tsong still deeply loved her, or else he would not have written such loving letters. As such, she asked to meet with Yi Tsong. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. It was time to reap the rewards. He brought Yi Tsong's body to a bamboo building. After waiting for a while, a peerlessly beautiful figure slowly arrived. She had a graceful figure and snow-white skin. Her face was flawless, and she wore a red dress. She looked incredibly enchanting, and she was definitely a seductive beauty. Mo Yao Er walked into the bamboo building with a trace of a smile on her face. If she could control Yi Tsong, she would be able to control the Night Dynasty. Thinking about that, Mo Yao Er felt a trace of excitement. However, when Mo Yao Er arrived and saw Zhao Fu, she started to walk over. However, her body stopped because she found that Yi Tsong seemed to have become a completely different person. There was no trace of love or infatuation in his eyes, only calmness. Mo Yao Er felt that something was off and immediately tried to leave. However, at that moment, the sound of countless chains rang out as chains shot out and bound Mo Yao Er up. This caused Mo Yao Er's expression to fall, and she vigorously struggled, but she was unable to break free at all, and her body fell to the ground. Zhao Fu smiled as he walked towards Mo Yao Er. Mo Yao Er looked at the man who had appeared. It was this man who had bound her up with chains. Her expression was cold as she said harshly, "Do you know who I am? I'm the daughter of the Demon Path Sect's sect master. Hurry up and release me, or else I'll cut off your dog head." "Of course I know who you are." Zhao Fu smiled as he squatted down and pinched her chin, causing her to raise her face. Zhao Fu looked closely at Mo Yao Er's beautiful face and found that it was comparable to Wu Qingyang's. She had a natural bewitching aura, and it was no wonder why Yi Song was so infatuated with her. Sensing Zhao Fu's gaze, Mo Yao Er's expression fell as she coldly cried out, "If you dare to do anything to me, I'll definitely kill you." Zhao Fu ignored her and lowered his head to kiss her lips. The six desires' demonic qi entered her body, and Mo Yao Er struggled a few times before passionately kissing Zhao Fu, their tongues intertwining. Only when Mo Yao Er was almost out of breath did Zhao Fu let go of her. Mo Yao Er looked at Zhao Fu with lustful eyes, a look of desire on her face. "Do you want it?" Zhao Fu smiled as he asked. Mo Yao Er embarrassedly nodded, but Zhao Fu did not immediately take action. Instead, he said, "Call me master." Hearing such a humiliating title, Mo Yao Er gritted her teeth and turned her head away, resisting the boundless desire within her. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he stretched his hand into her clothes and started to tease her. In the end, Mo Yao Er could not hold it in anymore and called out, "Master!" Zhao Fu fulfilled her wish and lowered his head to kiss her before starting to do it with her and doing all sorts of shameful things with her. Chapter 741. However, this was to fulfill Yi Tsong's wish, and Zhao Fu had already made this promise. Looking at Mo Yao Er, Zhao Fu picked her up and did it again, satisfying her needs. Following this, he accepted her service and slowly put on his clothes. Mo Yao Er flirtatiously started to put on her clothes. Zhao Fu had planted a six desires demonic seed in her body, which could cause her to constantly be in a state of excitement. At the same time, this was beneficial to her, as she could cultivate the six desires celestial art. Even though it was not as powerful as Zhao Fu's, it was still a top-tier art and was extremely powerful. "Master!" After putting on her clothes, Mo Yao Er affectionately hugged Zhao Fu's arm and called out. Zhao Fu smiled and lightly patted her face, while Mo Yao Er enjoyed Zhao Fu's touch. At that moment, Zhao Fu looked up and saw Yi Tsong's body, who had witnessed all of this. Yi Tsong's body actually started to cry, making Zhao Fu feel quite surprised. What was going on? How could Yi Tsong cry? He wasn't controlling him. Could it be that he still had consciousness? Zhao Fu felt quite confused, and the golden dragon suddenly explained, "It's most likely an instinctive reaction from his memories." However, for him to still have such a reaction after his consciousness has disappeared, it seems that he truly loves this woman. After hearing the golden dragon's explanation, Zhao Fu looked down at Mo Yao Er, who was looking at him with infatuation, and felt quite complicated. Mo Yao Er looked at Zhao Fu and said flirtatiously, "Master, do you want me to serve you?" As she spoke, Mo Yao Er squatted down and was about to undo Zhao Fu's pants, but Zhao Fu stopped her and had her stand up. Just then, Zhao Fu had heard from her that she wanted to control Yi Tsong and the Night Dynasty. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "You can go back. Tell your father that it was a success and that the Night Dynasty can ally with the Demon Path sect to draw out your two ancestors." Zhao Fu had obtained many of the Demon Path sect's secrets, and he wanted to use Mo Yao Er to control the Demon Path sect. If he could control the Demon Path sect, the two factions would ally together and become the #1 faction in the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. This would fulfill his final wish. "Master," Mo Yao hugged Zhao Fu as she said coquettishly. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. The Demon Path sect was a sect and had many powerful cultivators. They had a total of 8 ancestors, and with Mo Yao Er's help, Zhao Fu would be able to control 1/3 of the Demon Path sect. Of course, those 2 ancestors were women, and Zhao Fu felt that the 6 Desire Celestial Art was simply too powerful. It was like a cheat in a game, and no woman would be able to resist it. Zhao Fu found that he really had become a licentious and immoral person. In actuality, if it was possible, Zhao Fu wanted to remain true to himself and be a pure man. It was not just his body, but his soul as well. It was a pity that things did not go as he wished. For the sake of Qin, the people, and the human world, Zhao Fu could only become someone that he did not want to become. However, everyone believed that Zhao Fu was truly a pure and faithful man. Haha. After being intimate with Mo Yao Er for a while, Mo Yao Er left. After returning to the Demon Path sect, Mo Yao Er found Mo Sun and smiled as she said, "Father, the plan was a great success. Yi Tsang listens to everything I say, and we can ally with the Night Dynasty to obtain even greater benefits." Mo Sun felt quite delighted and smiled as he nodded. "Yao Er, it's been hard on you this time." Mo Yao Er lightly nodded, and thinking about Zhao Fu's other tasks, she said, "Father, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now." Mo Sun looked at Mo Yao Er leave, and suddenly felt that his daughter was even more alluring than before. Her aura seemed to have become more powerful, and he felt quite surprised. However, Mo Yao Er was the person he trusted the most and loved the most. He could give her anything, so he naturally believed her. Because Mo Yao Er was the sect master's daughter, it was easy for the two ancestors to believe her. He successfully lured them into Zhao Fu's ambush, and they were easily subdued by Zhao Fu. Looking at the two women in the air, Zhao Fu smiled, and Mo Yao Er affectionately hugged Zhao Fu as she looked at the two ancestors. Of the two ancestors, one was around 40 years old and had a voluptuous figure. She was quite pretty and looked like a simple and honest woman, and she was called Pu He. The other was peerlessly beautiful and had a slim figure. Her skin was smooth, and she wore a white dress, making her look like a celestial maiden. She was called Shui Ruoyang, and she was someone from the same generation as Yining Shuang. Not only was she beautiful, but she also had extraordinary talent and had become an ancestor at a young age. It was said that the two of them were sworn enemies, and they fought every time they met. Zhao Fu had heard this from Mo Yao Er and had not heard it from Yining Shuang. The two ancestors furiously looked at Zhao Fu and Mo Yao Er and said coldly, "Who are you? Why did you suddenly ambush us? Also, Mo Yao Er, we trusted you, yet you betrayed us. Don't think that just because you're the sect master's daughter, we won't dare to do anything to you. You're being too impudent." Mo Yao Er lightly harumphed. "Ancestors, I'm helping you experience the happiest thing in the world. You won't even have time to thank me." Happiest thing? The two ancestors felt quite surprised and did not understand what she meant. However, from Mo Yao Er's lewd expression and lewd smile, Zhao Fu, who was walking over, they felt that something was off and started to struggle while yelling at Zhao Fu. However, it was to no avail. The three bodies rolled around each other, and the two women continuously moaned before powerlessly lying on the ground. Mo Yao Er, who had been waiting for a long time, leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and said shyly, "Master, hurry and give me a reward." Zhao Fu smiled and started to do it with her. Afterwards, the three women lay on Zhao Fu's arms. Pui was not a virgin, but Shui Ruoyang was. Pui seemed to enjoy it more, and because she had been with Zhao Fu for a long time, Zhao Fu took pity on Shui Ruoyang, so he did not do it for too long. Mo Yao Er coquettishly laughed. "Ancestors, I didn't lie to you, right? I didn't lie to you, right? Aren't you very happy? Shouldn't you be thanking me and Master?" Even though the two ancestors did not want to admit it, they were already addicted to Zhao Fu. That feeling had already seeped into their bones, and they were unable to extricate themselves. Zhao Fu hugged the three women and felt that he had once again sold his body. As a man, it was simply too tiring. After cuddling for a while, Zhao Fu told the two ancestors to properly cooperate with Mo Yao Er in the future. Now that the Night Dynasty had stabilized and had allied with the Demon Path sect, it had become a peak faction in the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. There was nothing for Zhao Fu to worry about. Even though the Dark Demon world still had the Eastern Continent, Western Continent, and Northern Continent with their current strength, they could not invade them. This trip to the Dark Demon world had come to an end. Chapter 742. The Dark Demon world's world protector paid attention to the changes in the human world and discussed with the other 7 legatees. However, he did not place the human world as eyes at all, and he continued to act high and mighty, as if he did not see the human world as an opponent at all. The Night Dynasty's matter caused quite a stir in the Dark Demon world, and it was not just the southern continent, but the other continents that paid attention to it as well. However, Zhao Fu had been keeping a low profile this entire time, and now that this matter was over, everyone's attention was diverted. After Zhao Fu returned to Qin City, 5 months passed in the blink of an eye. The summer season had turned into winter, and the weather had become cold. The leaves on the trees had withered and turned yellow, and it was soon the second year of the Heaven Awakened world. Time quickly passed, and in the blink of an eye, Qin City had cleared out 77 regions, and Qin City's strength once again went through massive changes. Qin City's level 1 capital city had risen by 2 levels, and it was now a level 3 capital city. There were still 3 more levels before it could level up to a royal city. Next were the level 3 capital city stats. Village name: Qin City, Epic. Level 3 capital city village area. 94,400 square kilometers village territory. 542,1800 square kilometers popular support. 86 special stats. Territory crop output plus 220%. Territory crop growth time minus 220%. Population limit plus 145%. Resident stats plus 16. Soldier stats plus 17%. Population attraction plus 160%. High-grade attraction plus 160%. Subsidiary village limit: 126930 subordinate villages. Logue Village, Jean Village, Doran Village, Lee Family Village, Wolf Village, Ferocious Tiger Village. In order to level up to a level 4 capital city, Zhao Fu now needed 300 million EXP, which was another massive sum. However, since he had come this far, Zhao Fu was not too worried, as he would level up sooner or later. Now, Qin City had 108 regions under its control. There were 408 great cities, 20 cities, 136 towns, and 12,489 villages. Their total population had reached 420 million, and they had 50 million soldiers. There were 40 million Stage 1 soldiers, 2 million Stage 2 soldiers, 100,000 Stage 3 soldiers, and 6,000 Stage 4 soldiers. This was the terrible power of Qin. Now, it was enough to compete with any country. Now, even without the reality-harming talisman, Zhao Fu did not have to worry about the attack of the entire Huaxia. This was the source of Qin's confidence. In this part of the world, natural disasters and man-made disasters were becoming more and more frequent, and adding on Qin's relationship with system main cities. Within 5 months, 52 system main cities had joined Qin. They did this voluntarily. Zhao Fu didn't use any force at all. He pulled them into the Qin state with diplomatic policies. Being able to easily obtain 50 or so cities like this, Zhao Fu was naturally quite happy. At the same time, the 10 or so regions around Qin City had become uninhabited. This was because the nearby cities had either joined Qin City or did not dare to stay here. Qin City had already cleared out 77 regions, but now there were 15 more, and Qin City soldiers had to continue clearing out. Of course, clearing out regions was no longer a difficult matter, as Qin City now had 50 million soldiers. Zhao Fu split them into 5 teams, and each team cleared out a region. Each team spent 5 days clearing out a region. Like this, Qin City would be able to clear out a region in a day. This speed was quite shocking, and these 15 regions would be cleared out in 15 days. Moreover, at the northern border of Vietnam, Zhao Fu had already constructed thick defensive walls that could be used to attack and defend. However, Zhao Fu did not plan to attack Vietnam. Vietnam was a small country, and it only had 350 regions. Right now, Qin City's territory was equivalent to 1/3 of Vietnam's territory. Zhao Fu did not place Vietnam in his eyes at all, and he did not launch an all-out attack because he wanted to rely on the Vietnamese Guard. Now, the Vietnamese Guard had around 10 million members, and Vietnam's total population was around 120 million. The Vietnamese Guard made up around 10% of the population. With Zhao Fu's support, The Vietnamese Guard's strength surpassed the governmental faction, and it became the largest faction in Vietnam. It was like a barrel of dynamite that was waiting to explode. Right now, Zhao Fu did not plan to attack, because Qin City was on friendly terms with the countless main cities nearby. As such, Zhao Fu naturally would not attack them. As long as the situation outside became worse and worse, they would naturally submit, and Zhao Fu would not need to expend a single soldier to obtain them. Just like that, the days passed peacefully. It was winter outside, and Zhao Fu and Shama's mother were doing it next to a fire. Shama's little sister and auntie had already fallen asleep. Shama's mother moaned as her body softened, and Zhao Fu picked up Shama's fiancée and started to do it again. Shama had not even touched this woman yet, so it was now Zhao Fu's turn. Shama's fiancée was currently intensely doing it with Zhao Fu. Following this, Shama's fiancée went limp, and Zhao Fu picked up Shama's sister-in-law. Zhao Fu had a deep impression of her thirst, so he decided to satisfy her this time. After going at it for a while, Shama's mother lay on Zhao Fu's chest and panted. She flirtatiously smiled as she looked at Zhao Fu and said, "Your Majesty, the Peacock City will only be able to display its true power in the hands of the Peacock royal clan. The Moria City will only be able to unleash its true power in the hands of the Moria royal clan." Think about it. Zhao Fu thought about it and realized that this was indeed the truth. The Moria City would only be able to unleash its true power in the hands of the Moria royal clan. However, Zhao Fu wanted to nurture it into a capital city in the future, and City Lord Seals could be used in battle. The City Lord Seals would be quite useful, so he told Shama's mother about this. Shama's mother softly explained, "Your Majesty, I understand. You might not know this, but Shama's little sister's archery skills are incredibly powerful. You can test her, and I'm 100% confident that she'll be able to satisfy your requirements." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "So that's why you called me here?" Seeing that Zhao Fu was not angry, Shama's mother happily smiled and said, "Your Majesty, I'm your woman now, so of course I have to think about Qin sake. I'm your woman now, so of course I have to think about Great Qin. I should give the right things to the right people in order to unleash the greatest power." Zhao Fu knew that her words were not sincere, so he did not have any objections. If Shama's little sister could satisfy his requirements, and she had the Moria royal bloodline, she would be the most suitable candidate. "I'll think about it," Zhao Fu said. Shama's mother felt quite delighted and gave a beautiful smile as she started to passionately kiss Zhao Fu. She was working hard for the Moria royal clan, and Shama's sister-in-law was already on Zhao Fu's body. System announcement. The heaven domain boundary between the human world and the fish scale world has been damaged, and the two worlds' territories have been connected. The chaotic world's special phase has been triggered. Race invasion. System announcement. During the race invasion phase, both the attacking and defending sides will receive 4 times the rewards. Chapter 743. This system announcement caused Zhao Fu to feel quite startled. He had never thought that something like this would happen. When Zhao Fu heard about the invasion, he knew that this was not a small matter, and it could even endanger the human world. The dark demon world, which had been the most dangerous, was completely fine, while the safest world, the water race, had been attacked. Zhao Fu did not know what the situation was like, and he did not know if this was an accident or if it was the water race's invasion. If it was an invasion, the situation would be even more serious, because if the other side was prepared to invade, the entire human world would be in danger. Zhao Fu understood how serious this matter was, and by now, the entire world had received this news. Zhao Fu immediately got up and used the transboundary teleportation channel to head to the southern continent. The southern continent was mostly African, and this was Akhenaten's territory. Zhao Fu did not know what the situation was like, and he wondered if the fish scale people had already started to invade. Zhao Fu started to feel quite nervous, and he quickly rushed to the boundary of the southern continent. The other legatees also hurried over with worried expressions. When Zhao Fu arrived, the scene before him made him feel quite shocked. At the boundary of the southern continent, There had been a barrier around the legacy land. Outside of the barrier, it was a hazy, gray area, making it impossible to see anything. However, things were different now. There was a rift that was millions of kilometers wide, and on the other side was another world. That world had a blue sky and white clouds, as well as a boundless ocean. The sound of waves crashing could be heard from the other side, and the sound was incredibly deafening. The scene was quite majestic and shocking. Akhenaten and some other people had long since arrived, and they stood by the side, staring at the scene in shock. Following this, the other legatees also arrived, and looking at the majestic scene, they felt quite shocked. "What's going on?" Tina Pendragon came to Zhao Fu and Akhenaten's side and looked at them as she asked. Zhao Fu shook his head, indicating that he did not know. Akhenaten said with a serious expression, "I don't know what happened either. I only heard a huge explosion, and then I rushed over and saw this scene." Jeffrey looked over and said, "Luckily, we haven't seen the fish scale people yet, which means that this isn't because of them invading. When I received the system announcements, I felt quite nervous. I was worried that the fish scale people would suddenly invade, and tens of thousands of them would slaughter their way into the human world." When the others heard this, they nodded secretly. They had the same thought. When the notification sounded, their first reaction was that the water tribe was invading. He had already imagined the scene of countless fish-scale people charging into the human world and starting a massacre. Because of how sudden the situation was, the southern continent would not be able to defend, and it would become hell. It seemed that this was not the case. It was most likely an accident, and it was possible that the fish-scale people did not know about it. However, due to this influence, the chaotic world of both worlds entered the race invasion phase. Currently, both sides had yet to make a move, but no one knew what would happen in the future. At that moment, a few figures appeared on the surface of the fish-scale world's ocean. They had human bodies, but there were small fish scales on their bodies and gills on their ears. It seemed that they could live on land and water. Immediately, Zhao Fu and the others' expressions became serious. If they could get on land, they would be able to invade, and they would not be safe. The figures gave off powerful auras, and they were most likely the legatees of the other world. Zhao Fu felt that he had been too careless and thought that the water tribe would be safe. This was a big mistake. One could not look down on any race in the Heaven Awakened world. "What should we do now?" Akhenaten asked. The southern continent was his territory, and such a big thing had happened. He was the most worried, as if something happened, he would be the first to suffer. Tina Pendragon said seriously, "Of course, immediately gather the factions in the southern continent to discuss and build defensive walls to defend against the fish-scale people's invasion. Also, make preparations for a big battle. Once they invade, it will be a battle between worlds. If the southern continent is not prepared, it might fall immediately." Akhenaten nodded and said, "I understand. I'll have people take care of this later. What about you? What can you do?" Now, the legatees came from different continents, and they were separated by oceans. A single legatee had crossed countless regions to arrive here, and it was already quite difficult. It would be difficult for them to send a large number of reinforcements. That was what Akhenaten was worried about the most. If the southern continent did not receive reinforcements, they would have to face the entire fish-scale world's invasion. The pressure from this would be immense, and if things went wrong, he might die here. Tina Pendragon thought about it and said, "When the time comes, I'll do my best to come and support you." Jeffrey also said, "I'll also do my best to support you and defend against the fish-scale world's invasion. After all, this concerns all of humanity, so we have to be united." However, apart from these two, the others did not say anything. CG and Oleg were thinking about other things. Of the 8 legatees, the 2 weakest were Masanori Hano. Because she had started developing later and only relied on the Demon City, her faction would be weaker than the others and would not be able to provide much support. The other was Babylon. Even though he was the legatee of a clan armament, he did not have a kingdom legacy or a city. He had always been by himself, so only he could help. Masanori Hano and Babylon thought for a while, before expressing that they would do their best to support him. CG and the others also made their decision and expressed their support. Following this, everyone looked at Zhao Fu, who had not said anything this entire time. They felt quite nervous. If Qin, the strongest person in the human world, did not support them, they would not have much confidence. They would feel that they would be weaker in terms of morale. Zhao Fu could tell what they were thinking, and he lightly laughed as he said, "How could I not help with such an invasion? Also, it's best if everyone in the world knows about this. Otherwise, just a few of us won't be able to do much." Everyone felt quite relieved and smiled. At that moment, Zhao Fu said, "We can't just passively defend. We can also take the initiative to attack. The rewards for invading a world are quite great, and there will be an ocean of fate. We can also increase the human world's fate, which is beneficial to all of humanity." While the human world's people were discussing, the fish scale world's people were also discussing how to face the human world. Chapter 744. They weren't prepared, but we weren't prepared either. Who knew that something like this would happen? How could we attack like this? If we recklessly charge over without making any preparations, we'll definitely be defeated. Not only will we suffer countless casualties, but we'll also become a joke, a shrewd fatty retorted. A bewitching woman also said, "We should go back and notify the various tribes and dynasty legatees to have them prepare. Also, I feel that it's best if we lure the humans over because the water is our home ground. The humans can't breathe underwater and they'll drown if they fall in. However, we're different. We're amphibious, and as long as we're in the water, we'll have a great advantage. Also, they'll most likely come on boats and we'll hide in the water. When that time comes, they'll be in the light while we'll be in the dark." Everyone was quite satisfied with this plan, and they all smiled. A gloomy elder looked at Zhao Fu and the others and said, "What do we do now? Do we just leave? How are we going to deal with those human race legatees? They're most likely thinking the same thing as us, and will first spread the news. After all, this is a big matter between two worlds, so they most likely won't do anything for now. As such, we can leave and make preparations to slaughter the humans," a middle-aged man said as he coldly laughed. The fish scale people looked at each other and smiled before turning into rays of light and shooting into the water and disappearing. Zhao Fu sensed the hostility from the other side and coldly harumphed. He also turned into a ray of black light and shot over the horizon, leaving first. The remaining legatees chatted for a bit before also leaving. After everyone left, a dignified-looking little boy with 2 streams of snot running down his nose came out of the water. Looking at the scene in front of him, he felt quite dumbfounded. He then looked at the rainbow shard in his hand and felt that he had caused trouble. This boy looked to be from the fish scale race, but what was different about him was that he had a golden dragon tail. The boy sniffled and sucked in the snot before putting the rainbow shard into his clothes. He felt that he could not stay here any longer, and as if he had done something wrong and was afraid of being scolded by adults, he dove into the water and ran away. This matter quickly spread throughout both worlds, and almost everyone knew about it. Everyone in the fish scale world prepared to slaughter the humans. Their environment was incredibly cruel, and there were aquatic beasts everywhere. They understood the principle of the strong preying on the weak, so they all agreed to slaughter the humans. On the other side of the human world, the humans who lived at the top of the pyramid on Earth and lived a comfortable life had different attitudes. Some people were in favor of war, and of course, there were also people who opposed it and criticized such behavior. The other world didn't attack us, so why should we attack them? Being an invader is a shameful thing. I don't want future generations to say that about me, so I definitely won't go. However, I do support building a defensive wall and oppose all violence. Why can't we solve this peacefully? Why must we start a war? Do you know the consequences of war? You butchers, you're practically born human, and I don't want to be associated with you. Yeah, I'm also a pacifist, and it's best to be careful when it comes to a war between two worlds. I think we should send people over to communicate and reduce unnecessary misunderstandings. I believe that the other side is kind and won't start a war. I know this was suggested by Great Qin's legatee. Do you really want to help someone as ruthless and cruel as Great Qin's legatee? Everyone, please wake up and oppose all wars. I also support defending, and we definitely can't invade other worlds. A bunch of ignorant, boorish people. It's already the 20th century, yet they still don't know how to respect human rights, justice, life, and morals. People like you are all trying to establish tyrannical regimes. If you say they're in danger, bring out some proof. Anyway, I know that they haven't attacked us yet. The human world was split into two factions. Those who supported peace did not do anything, and they instead started to criticize and insult the other side. The media that stood on the side of justice also reported and supported them. Those who supported war started to gather at the boundary of the southern continent because they knew how important this war was. If they did not react now, it would be too late for the human world to be invaded. Most of the factions were researching teleportation channels so that they could provide support if the southern continent was in danger. At the same time, all sorts of resources were being prepared, and the atmosphere was tense and austere. It was as if a shocking war was about to erupt. Zhao Fu returned to Qin City and gathered his generals to discuss this matter. Facing the fish-scale people's threat, everyone became quite serious. This matter affected the entire human world, and as humans, they definitely did not want the human world to lose this war. After discussing for 3 or so hours, Qin City started to gather all sorts of resources to prepare for the war, and everything else was put on hold. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the chaotic world stone steel. Before, Zhao Fu had not been very interested in the items on the chaotic world stone steel, but this invasion would affect the survival of an entire race, so the rewards would definitely be quite great. Now, Qin City's chaotic world stone steel was level 8, which was something that ordinary dynasties could not achieve. This chaotic world stone steel would most likely have some good things. Moreover, Zhao Fu received a system announcement that the chaotic world stone steel had been updated, making Zhao Fu feel even more excited. He looked at the chaotic world stone steel, and it did not disappoint Zhao Fu. Within the chaotic world stone steel, Zhao Fu saw a few things that he was quite interested in. These things were almost impossible to obtain before. For example, the first thing Zhao Fu saw was a great city upgrade stone. The second was a blueprint for the dragon-slaying ballistae, and the third was a 10,000 blood god stone that could be used by the Corpse Soul Blood Lake. It could create 100 Corpse Soul soldiers and 5 Corpse Soul commanders every day. There were also cities that could be exchanged for. Apart from towns and cities, there are also great cities and at the very highest capital cities. Even though capital cities were quite expensive, this gave Zhao Fu a trace of hope. If he could exchange for a capital city, he would be one step closer to restoring Qin City. If he could exchange for 3 capital cities, Zhao Fu would be able to upgrade Qin City to level 6, and he would be able to establish a kingdom. This made Zhao Fu feel quite excited. Looking at so many tempting things, Zhao Fu wanted to participate even more. After this matter was resolved, Qin City would not be too far away from establishing a kingdom. Chapter 745. The reason Zhao Fu had come here by himself was because he wanted to obtain accurate information about the fish-scale people. He did not want to send his soldiers ahead of time, as they did not know much yet. If he sent his soldiers over and billions of enemies invaded, it was possible that all of Zhao Fu's soldiers would be wiped out. He could not afford to be careless in such a world-class battle, and Zhao Fu would not joke around with his soldiers' lives. There were still many people who had not arrived yet, so it would take some time. However, some people from the southern continent had already arrived and started to build defensive walls. They were mainly made from massive trees, rocks, and clay, and they were quite simple and quick. Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and flew into the fish-scale world. Looking at the boundless ocean, Zhao Fu unleashed his emperor's domain and dove into the water. He felt that the fish-scale people were quite easy to attack, as they lived in the water and did not have many defensive walls. If they built defensive walls, they would be able to swim over without any obstructions. Soon, Zhao Fu found a wilderness village that lived near a group of reefs. Zhao Fu found that the fish scale people here all chose to rely on certain things to protect themselves. Some relied on reefs, while others relied on underwater mountains. Using natural objects as cover, they did not need to build defensive walls. However, attacking them would be quite troublesome, as they could not only use reefs to attack, but they could also use reefs and mountains to hide. The fish scale people were not as easy to deal with as they had imagined, and attacking them would be quite troublesome. First, there was the problem of water. Humans could not breathe underwater, and while they could swim and dive, they could not fight underwater unless they had items that could breathe underwater. After looking around for a while, Zhao Fu did not see any signs of an army coming. It seemed that the fish scale people were also making preparations. After not finding anything else, Zhao Fu returned to the human world. Time gradually passed, and more people gathered. Soon, there were 100 million people. Apart from the players, there were also the system main city residents. Zhao Fu wanted to pull the system main city residents in as well, but none of them were willing to participate. They felt that with the players blocking them, they would not act unless it was truly dangerous. This was not Zhao Fu's home field, so Zhao Fu couldn't say or do anything. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu ordered people to make the water pearl. Water pearls were treasures on the market that could allow one to breathe underwater, and they cost 10 silver coins each. Following the events in the fish scale world, the price of water pearls quickly increased, and it was now 15 silver coins each. Zhao Fu felt that it was too troublesome, so he obtained a blueprint and gave it to Bai Shan and the others to create it. Apart from the water spirit pearl, he also needed a large number of boats. Although he could breathe underwater, he still needed a place where he could stand to facilitate transportation, gathering, and replenishment. This was the preparation for the attack. The defensive preparations had already been made, so there was no need to worry. Half a month later, both offensive and defensive preparations had been completed. 300 million people had gathered at the southern continent's boundary, and the defensive wall was completed. It was 12 meters tall and 6 meters wide, and it was quite shocking to see such a wall being built in such a short period of time. Most of the people gathered here were from the southern continent, and various leaders had gathered, forming an alliance of thousands of people. Akhenaten's people trusted him and felt that he was more useful than Zhao Fu, so he was appointed as the commander of the alliance. As an outsider, Zhao Fu was pushed to the sidelines. It wasn't just Zhao Fu. The other legatees were also pushed aside. Apart from the fact that they were outsiders, they did not bring many people. Tina Pendragon brought 100,000 people. CG brought 80,000 people. Jeffrey brought 90,000 people. Masanori Hano brought 70,000 people. And Zhao Fu brought the most people with 120,000 people. It wasn't that they didn't want to send more people. It was just that crossing an entire continent was no simple matter. Zhao Fu's 120,000 soldiers had all been continuously teleported over using transboundary teleportation channels. Compared to 300 million people, 100,000 or so soldiers was not much at all. As such, many of the factions in the southern continent looked down on them. Adding on the fact that they were outsiders, they were naturally pushed aside. Zhao Fu did not mind too much. He did not want to use his full strength this time, and he wanted to see the fish scale people's strength first. This was just a test. After so much time had passed, the human side had finished their preparations, but the fish scale people had not reacted at all. Another half a month passed, and now they had waited for more than a month, but the fish scale people still had not reacted. By now, some people were starting to feel dissatisfied. They couldn't just waste so many people here. Zhao Fu wanted to take the initiative to attack and test the situation, but he did not have much authority here. Zhao Fu would not send his 120,000 soldiers, because if there was any danger, they would all be wiped out. Akhenaten had also thought about taking the initiative to invade, but because of the urgency of the situation, at least 80% of the fish scale people had not prepared any means of invading. They had not prepared a large number of ships or items that could breathe underwater, and they also needed the ability to swim and fight underwater. As such, many people were not willing to invade. Not only were they not prepared, but the risks were also quite high. Even though the rewards were quite good, it was not enough for them to risk everything. A few more days passed, and the dissatisfaction reached its peak. Some people started to say that Zhao Fu and the other legatees were making too much of a fuss about nothing, and that the other side did not have any intentions of attacking the human world. It was Zhao Fu and the other legatees who were too cowardly and often thought that the other side would harm the human world. As the world protector, Zhao Fu was the most important person in the world, so he was naturally criticized the most. The other legatees felt quite angry and left one after another. In the end, only Tina Pendragon and Jeffrey remained. Zhao Fu was also quite angry, but he still stayed. Another 3 days passed, and some people cursed and left. Now that things had started, many people also chose to leave. They had already spent more than a month here, and no one wanted to waste any more time like this. In the end, they could only leave. In the end, there were only 3 million soldiers left on the defensive wall. The various factions left some people behind to stand guard before returning to their own bases. Seeing that there were only so few people left, Zhao Fu could only helplessly return to Qin City with his soldiers. He felt quite confused as to why the fish scale people had not invaded yet. Were they waiting for the human world to invade? However, very few people in the human world had experience fighting underwater, and Qin City was the same. They only had experience fighting on land, and they did not know anything about the other side. They did not want to take the risk and were afraid of suffering heavy casualties, so they naturally would not attack. Chapter 746. Everyone had been filled with battle intent as they set off to defend against and invade the fish scale world. However, they had now returned dispiritedly, dealing a great blow to everyone's morale. They started to doubt whether this was right or wrong, and those who had not done anything before started to mock them. Didn't you say that the situation was dire? Is the human world going to suffer a massive disaster? What a big fuss. Did anything happen? Nothing happened at all. Why do you think that the other side is as greedy and selfish as humans? You've all made a big mistake this time. So many people rushed over. Not only did it waste a lot of time and effort, but it also affected the image of us humans. You've lost face for us humans, and others will think that we're unreasonable, boorish people. That's right. I hate these idiots the most. Just because someone casually said something, they just ran over and blindly believed everything. Luckily, I was smart and didn't go. Now, the truth is that the other side didn't attack us. Ha! I demand that those who went to the boundary apologize. This will affect the image of us humans too much, and it might cause a huge battle. If they don't apologize and a huge battle breaks out, they'll have to take responsibility. In actuality, those legatees are too cowardly. The main reason was that those inheritors were too cowardly. We humans are the wisest of all creatures, so why would we be afraid of others? We humans have the strength to defend against everything. I have absolute confidence in that. However, those legatees have lost face for us humans. The people who said these things were mostly people who lived the most comfortable lives. They had plenty of resources and did not have much to worry about. Hearing these people say these things, the people who had participated in the battle could not refute them, and it was as if they had done something wrong. Before, 70% of the people wanted to fight, 20% were pacifists, and the remaining 10% were just spectators. However, after a month of peace, only 30% of the people wanted to fight remained, 40% were pacifists, and 30% were indifferent. The most active were, of course, the pacifists. They raised flags everywhere, saying that they wanted Legatee Qin's legatee to go and apologize. Since they were legatees, they should accept responsibility and that they had the right to make them apologize. After all, the world belonged to them, and they wanted freedom and democracy. Everyone had their own rights, and they could not allow anyone to destroy those rights. No one or a few people could represent them. Since they had done something wrong, they should go and apologize. Otherwise, they would not be fit to be legatees and would continue to lose face for the entire human race. Everyone please courageously stand up and resist these ruthless people." This made the legatees feel incredibly angry, and Oleg directly announced that he would not care about this anymore. Geoffrey patiently explained to everyone. Geoffrey's legatee's legatee and legatee's legatee was not too angry. Akhenaten felt quite complicated and did not know how to deal with all of this. So much time had passed, and he did not know if the other side had invaded or not. However, he did not want to cause any trouble and just wanted the Pharaoh kingdom to develop peacefully. Zhao Fu was so angry that he could not say anything, and he did not care about these things anymore. He stayed within Great Qin and focused on developing weapons that countered the fish scale people. At the same time, Zhao Fu was also training the soldiers' ability to fight underwater. He didn't want them to be useless underwater and be unable to use their powerful cultivation. Time continued to pass day by day. In the blink of an eye, it was almost the new year. More than 2 months had passed since the appearance of the Great Southern Rift. Things gradually calmed down, and people did not pay too much attention to the situation at the southern boundary. The pacifists did not make any more ruckus, and they turned their attention to other matters. It had been 2 months, and perhaps the fish scale people would not invade the human world. During these 2 months, Qin City continued to develop steadily and quickly. During these 2 months, Qin City had already cleared out 15 regions, and it now controlled 123 regions. During this period of time, another 21 main cities were unable to resist and chose to join Qin City. Now that the natural disaster had been raging for almost a year, there was a shortage of food. Because of the impact of a natural disaster, there was almost no harvest. Food, which was originally so cheap that almost no one wanted it, had now become an important resource. With the shortage of resources, the outbreak of conflict became even more intense. Under starvation, even a group of good citizens would become rioters and start to steal from each other, making the situation even more chaotic than before. Zhao Fu did not care about these things and continued to research weapons to deal with the fish scale people. By now, Zhao Fu had already made up his mind that even if the fish scale people did not invade, Zhao Fu would still attack for the capital city and other rewards. Because they were not from the same race, Zhao Fu did not trust them at all. As such, he had to deal with them. Even if they were not in danger now, who knew what would happen in the future? When dealing with the fish scale people, Zhao Fu likened them to a school of fish. Fish were aquatic creatures, so they were quite similar to other aquatic races. Zhao Fu wanted to use the same method to deal with the fish scale people. If people wanted to catch fish, some would use fishing nets, some would use their hands, and some would use harpoons. Of course, this was not possible. The fish scale people were not real fish, so these methods were not suitable for them. Zhao Fu used a large-scale method, which was to catch large groups of fish, such as fishing nets, poison, and mines. These 3 methods were the most common methods of catching large groups of fish. However, because the situation was different, Zhao Fu made some changes. For example, Zhao Fu used the silver grade metal that Qin had spent a lot of effort to obtain, as well as a special material to create it. Ordinary Stage 1 soldiers and below would not be able to cut through it, and if many Stage 1 soldiers sent their cultivation power into it, even Stage 2 soldiers would not be able to escape. The second method was to use poison. This method was very rarely used, as just a few vials of poison could kill all of the creatures in a river. This was simply too immoral, so not many people saw it, and it was strictly forbidden. Zhao Fu ordered people to gather a massive amount of poison from all over China. At that moment, the other treasure that Zhao Fu had obtained was put to use, which was the 10,000 poison divine cauldron that he had obtained from killing the purple-scaled python. This cauldron could refine all kinds of poisons, and it could also release the greatest toxicity. The cauldron itself could also evolve through refining poisons, and it was a treasure with growth potential. A single drop of poison that could kill hundreds of people was brought over by Zhao Fu and poured into the 10,000 poison divine cauldron before refining a few drops. Chapter 747. The final method was to use naval mines. Because water was also a conductor, the power of a naval mine's explosion would be even greater than on land, and its destructive power was incredibly shocking. In the past, people often used this method to blow up fish, and they would be able to destroy a large area. Now, it was not that common anymore, as it was quite dangerous. Moreover, anyone who used this method to blow up fish would be said to be cruel and immoral, and others would not allow it. Zhao Fu did not have any naval mines, but he had two humanoid missiles, which were Binoche and Karash. During the defensive battle, Zhao Fu had heard of their performance. A combined forbidden spell had blasted open a 10-kilometer-wide crater, causing millions of soldiers to not dare to come close. This time, Zhao Fu wanted to rely on them to seal the forbidden spell and create a forbidden spell item. He would seal the forbidden spell's power within an item, and as long as he threw it out, it would activate the forbidden spell's power. This was similar to a magic scroll. Zhao Fu used a high-purity energy crystal as a medium. It was a 30-centimeter long rhombus-shaped crystal that was incredibly transparent and had many small faces like a diamond. It refracted light and looked quite beautiful. This kind of crystal could contain terrifying power, and only it could be used as a medium for forbidden spells. Ordinary items would not be able to withstand forbidden spells' destructive power. However, these crystals were quite expensive, and they cost 10,000 gold coins each. Zhao Fu gave the crystals to Binoche and Karash. Because forbidden spells required a large amount of strength and energy, even though Zhao Fu helped them by recovery items, they could only create 2 destruction crystals per day. Destruction crystal was the name of the finished product, and its appearance had greatly changed. The transparent rhombus-shaped crystal was now icy on one side and fiery on the other, and it gave off a terrifying, destructive aura. In the past month or so, Binoche and Karash had created 75 destruction crystals in total. These are the things that Zhao Fu used to blow up the fish, and they were incredibly powerful and could cause people to feel despair. After making these preparations, Zhao Fu did not start attacking. This was because it was almost the New Year, which was one of the most important holidays. Zhao Fu wanted the soldiers to relax and prepare for the cruel battles next year. At the same time, Zhao Fu also hoped that there would be good weather next year, so that Qin could also have a good celebration. Compared with the festive and lively scene in Qin City, most places were gloomy. They didn't even have enough to eat. How could they be happy? Therefore, they didn't have a happy New Year. On the contrary, they were very worried and hoped that the natural disaster would be over soon next year. He turned his gaze to the border of the southern continent. The opening that was millions of kilometers long was still the same, and nothing had changed. The sea breeze from the other world blew over, and the deafening sound of the waves was the same as usual. The 3 million soldiers had stood guard here for 2 or so months, and their days had been quite boring. Because there had been no movement from the other side, they were not too worried. They thought to themselves that the fish-scale people wouldn't dare to invade the human world either. The sky was completely dark, and it was even darker than usual. There were no stars or moons, and it was as if all light had been devoured. This sort of darkness made people feel quite afraid and terrified. Bonfires danced in the wind on the defensive walls, and a few soldiers sat together with a jug of wine, feeling quite dissatisfied. A soldier said drunkenly, "I'm bored to death here. I just stand guard here every day. The fish-scale world definitely won't attack, and it's been so long. When will the leader call us back? Or when will the fish-scale world attack? At least it won't be so boring." These words caused the other drunken soldiers to nod in agreement. After all, they were also quite dissatisfied with just standing here like this. Rumble. Suddenly, a massive explosion sounded out as the ground started to violently tremble. A terrifying and suffocating aura swept out like a tsunami, and the 3 million soldiers' bodies instantly froze. They felt as if they had fallen into bone-chilling ice water, and their souls trembled. The soldiers stood up in terror and looked towards a fish-scale world, because that was where the aura was coming from. Because of the darkness, the soldiers could not see ahead clearly. They could only see countless eyes that were as big as 2 houses, giving off a faint blood-red light, looking at the soldiers on the defensive walls with savage gazes. Enemy attack. A voice filled with extreme fear tore through the air, making the dark night seem even more terrifying and even more miserable. The ground continuously trembled, and the soldiers shot out a few massive light bombs in terror. White light spread out in the darkness, illuminating the surroundings. However, as the darkness receded, everyone became even more terrified, and they finally saw what was attacking. There were countless aquatic beasts that gave off terrifying and despairing auras. There were crab-like creatures that were 10 or so meters long, crocodile-like creatures that were 100 meters long, and striped sea snakes that were 1,000 meters long. There were also sharks that had 2 legs and were 100 meters tall. There was also a fish that was over 50 meters long and had a pair of wings on its body. There was also an octopus that was hundreds of meters tall and had countless tentacles. There was also a sword that was over 10 meters long and could float in the air. There was also a sea turtle that was as large as a mountain. Countless sea beasts, which couldn't be seen clearly, charged at the defensive wall like a tidal wave with earth-shattering momentum. Hurry and run. The soldiers did not dare to resist at all, because not only were the countless aquatic beasts massive, but there were also countless aquatic beasts rushing over like a flood. Moreover, there were countless aquatic beasts pouring through the massive rift and into the human world. The countless soldiers were so scared that they did not have the strength to fight at all, and they started to run for their lives. Some soldiers mustered up their courage and shot out arrows, but they either could not pass through the defensive walls or did not react at all. Rumble. The countless aquatic beasts gave off terrifying auras as they excitedly and madly rushed forwards. They were incredibly fast, and soon, the massive beast tide smashed into the 10 or so meter tall defensive walls. After being smashed by the massive aquatic beasts, the tall and sturdy defensive walls loudly collapsed. They were unable to stop the aquatic beasts at all, and the majestic defensive walls that were millions of kilometers long collapsed just like that, as if they had been completely useless. The soldiers were unable to escape at all, and they were either trampled to death or devoured. Pained cries tore through the air, and in just an instant, 3 million soldiers had died. Roar. Chapter 748. In the distance, 10 or so people looked at the rampaging aquatic beasts and grinned. These were the aquatic beasts that had rampaged in their world, and they could not control them. They had paid a heavy price and suffered heavy casualties, and it had taken them 2 or so months to lure them over. This was why they had not done anything for 2 or so months. They had been spying on this world this entire time, and they wanted to see the humans fighting amongst themselves. At first, they had wanted to wait for the humans to invade before using their geographical advantage to destroy the humans. It was a pity that the humans did not have any intentions of attacking, so they could only change their strategy and use the aquatic beast's power to sweep through the human world. With the aquatic beasts charging at the front, they would be able to easily collect the spoils of war from behind without any danger at all. However, they did not dare to act yet, as they had lured the aquatic beasts over and could not control them. If they got too close, they would be attacked by the aquatic beasts, and they would suffer heavy casualties. In actuality, this move was quite insidious, as the aquatic beasts were a scourge to the fish-scale world. By luring the aquatic beasts to the human world, they would be able to deal a blow to the human world's strength, and even if the aquatic beasts were destroyed, they would be getting rid of a scourge for the fish-scale world, and they would not lose a single soldier. The beast tide formed by the aquatic beasts was 10 or so times more terrifying than a beast tide formed by ordinary wild beasts. It was like a bulldozer, and no matter if it was the trees, grass, rocks, or ground, they were not flattened at all. There were only countless deep footprints on the ground. After breaking through the defensive walls, the aquatic beasts rampaged towards the human world. The first to sense danger were the wild beasts, and they madly ran for their lives. By the time the humans discovered this, it was already too late. Villages and towns were instantly inundated, and they could not resist at all. It was as if a massive beast had trampled over a group of ants. By the time a system main city discovered these terrifying aquatic beasts, it was already too late to run. The massive figures gave off mountain-toppling auras as they rushed towards the system main city. The city lord led 100,000 soldiers in a counterattack. The soldiers drew their bows and sent their cultivation power into them, causing countless arrows to shoot out. However, when they hit the aquatic beasts, they only caused them to howl in pain and were unable to deal any fatal damage. This meant that even Stage 1 soldiers were unable to kill these aquatic beasts. A massive creature like this would require a team of thousands of people to kill it, and it would require everyone's cooperation to kill it. However, they had gathered together, and if the Stage 1 soldiers were unable to form a powerful attack, it would be useless no matter how many people there were. Some of the more accurate soldiers were able to shoot their arrows through the sea beast's eyes and into their brains. Only then were they able to kill some of the low-level sea beasts. However, the eyes were not that easy to shoot. These sea beasts were quite intelligent, and they naturally knew their own weaknesses. Once they closed their eyes or moved, it was very difficult to attack their eyes. 100,000 soldiers only caused the deaths of a few dozen sea beasts. However, there were tens of millions of sea beasts. This was not a battle of the same level. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the system main city's tall and sturdy city walls were smashed by the beast tide. If it was an ordinary beast tide, the system main city might have the right to remain neutral, but this beast tide was from the other world, so they could not remain neutral. After the city walls were smashed down, countless soldiers fell from the sky. Some of the soldiers were injured, while others who were prepared were able to safely land and started to fight with the aquatic beasts. They were destined to be pitiful, and they were unable to deal much damage to the aquatic beasts. They were either crushed by the massive bodies or devoured in one gulp. Some of the soldiers were able to reach the aquatic beasts and madly attack them. However, with the aquatic beasts' massive bodies, they were unable to deal any fatal damage. At most, they were only able to injure the soldiers. Seeing countless soldiers die, the city lord furiously slashed out a large wave of saber light, slashing an aquatic beast that was hundreds of meters long in half, causing blood to rain down. The city lord's actions had long since been noticed by a few of the 1,000-meter-long aquatic beasts. A catfish-like aquatic beast swung its tail, and its massive body smashed towards the city lord like a mountain. The city lord was unable to dodge at all, and he could only place his saber in front of him to defend. However, he was still sent flying by the massive figure. After flying back, the city lord coughed up a mouthful of blood. However, the other aquatic beast seized this opportunity and bit down on the city lord's body. Its massive bite force tore through the city lord's defensive barrier and tore his body in half. The city lord died on the spot, and his lower body was eaten while his upper body fell from the sky and heavily crashed to the ground. The aquatic beast was quite reluctant, and it lowered its head and devoured the city lord's upper body as well as his city lord's seal. To the aquatic beasts, city lords were the most delicious desserts, and many aquatic beasts loved to eat them. Seeing that its desserts had been stolen, the catfish-like aquatic beast furiously roared. The aquatic beast that had eaten the city lord knew that it was in the wrong, so it ran off, indicating that it would not steal the city lord's food in the future. Only then did the massive catfish-like aquatic beast stop roaring, and it turned its savage gaze towards the residents who were running away in fear. Even though teleportation channels could be used, only a small portion of the people had been teleported out, and most of the people had remained in the city. Now that the city lord and soldiers had died, they could only run in another direction. The catfish-like aquatic beast flew over and opened its terrifying mouth, sucking in hundreds of people in a single breath before starting to chew. The sounds of bones breaking and blood splattering could be heard from the catfish-like aquatic beast's mouth. The catfish-like aquatic beast moved its throat and swallowed the meat, creating a terrifying scene that could cause anyone's hairs to stand on end. The remaining people screamed as they ran, but how could they outrun the beast tide? They were either eaten or crushed in a meat paste by the massive aquatic beasts. 400,000 or so people had disappeared in just a few moments, and the system main city had been razed to the ground, turning into a deathly ruin. There were corpses and blood everywhere, silently telling of what had happened here. This wasn't just what had happened to a single system main city, but countless system main cities. Tens of millions of aquatic beasts formed a massive beast tide that could simultaneously inundate 5 or 6 regions. In just a few moments, the aquatic beasts had ravaged 20 or so regions, leaving corpses strewn everywhere. Very few creatures were able to survive, and the aquatic beasts viewed all creatures in the human world as food that could be devoured. Chapter 749. The invasion of the aquatic beasts was like a massive bomb that exploded in the human world, sending massive waves through the human world. Countless people felt incredibly shocked at the horrendous scene that the aquatic beasts had created. Akhenaten immediately asked for help, because facing a beast tide of 10 million aquatic beasts, it was not something that he could defend against. He would need at least 600 million or 700 million Stage 1 soldiers to defend against it, and it was possible that he would suffer heavy casualties. Facing such a massive crisis, the southern continent could only respond, and even the system main city lords could not stay out of this. After seeing the aquatic beasts wreaking havoc, they had no choice but to work together with the players. In front of the massive aquatic beast tide, ordinary soldiers were completely useless because they could only deal light damage. Stage 1 system main city soldiers were not very useful either, and they could only kill the aquatic beasts by hitting their vitals. Only Stage 2 and Stage 3 system main city soldiers could threaten the aquatic beasts. However, who would have so many Stage 2 and Stage 3 soldiers? Even if a system main city had a great advantage after such a long time, each system main city would only have 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers, and 10 system main cities would only have 20,000 to 30,000 soldiers. 100 system main cities would only have 200,000 to 300,000 soldiers. If they wanted to fight against 10 million aquatic beasts, they had to have at least 10 million soldiers. After all, a single aquatic beast was incredibly terrifying, and it would be quite difficult for a few Stage 2 soldiers to deal with it. In the human world, there was no way that they could put up a resistance. Even though thousands of city lords were willing to join them, thousands of city lords were still incredibly weak compared to millions of aquatic beasts. Even though it was a miracle that thousands of city lords were willing to join them, they were still unable to defend against the aquatic beasts. The invasion of the aquatic beasts was a catastrophe for the southern continent. Akhenaten had no choice but to ask for help from the various factions. In such a dangerous and tense moment, most of the pacifist factions shut their mouths and did not say anything. However, there were still a few who continued to rebuke the players. Look, I already said that it's your fault for charging over so aggressively. Now that they're attacking in anger, it's all because of you. So you have to take responsibility. That's right. I also told the legatees to go and apologize, but they refused to do so. Now that they're attacking, they should be afraid. Serves them right. I feel that those legatees and World Protector don't deserve to be blamed at all. It's all because of them. If they wanted peace, would such a thing have happened? That's not going to happen. The other world is still kind, because it's just these sea beasts that are invading, not the other races. Please don't think that these ferocious sea beasts represent the entire world. We should negotiate with them in a peaceful manner and work together to resolve this matter. These world protectors and legatees are eating **T. Now that the sea beasts are invading, why aren't they taking care of them? How are they supposed to be legatees and world protectors? If they can't do it, then give them to someone else. Don't just stand there and not shit. These words almost angered the legatees to death. They had wanted to go and help, but they could not help but stop. Oleg directly said that if these people did not die, he would not help even if the world was destroyed. At most, they would all die together. Now that this was said, many hot-blooded people finally couldn't help but start bombarding these saints. Those who were worried that the world would really be destroyed were afraid that they would be harmed, so they also bombarded these pacifists. Some even found them in reality and beat them up. Only then did the words disappear, and the pacifists no longer dared to say anything. Zhao Fu did not care about these words, and he immediately rushed over because this could affect Qin. Some people said that the factions in the south did not welcome them, and there were countless pacifists talking about how Zhao Fu should not act and should only act in times of crisis to reap greater benefits. However, this was a war between worlds, and Qin's family could not control it alone. If things went out of control, it would be a disaster for everyone. Zhao Fu did not care about other people's lives, but Qin was something that he wanted to protect the most. As such, Zhao Fu did not care too much about these words and insults. When Zhao Fu and the other legatees saw such a ferocious and terrifying beast tide and sensed the earth-shattering aura, they felt incredibly shocked. This did not seem to be something that humans could stop. It was not just them. Zhao Fu did not have a way to deal with this either. The Earth Realm mark had not reached the end of the world yet, so he could not use it yet. Facing such a massive beast tide, even if Zhao Fu threw down all of his destruction crystals, they would not be very effective. After all, these aquatic beasts were simply too big and had powerful life force. 75 destruction crystals would only be able to kill 1 million aquatic beasts at most. What do you all think we should do? Akhenaten felt incredibly worried because the aquatic beast had already ravaged 50 or so regions, and 200 million people had been killed. If this went on, the southern continent would be finished. Zhao Fu said, with such a massive beast tide gathered together, the impact is simply too monstrous. Right now, we need to split them up and attack them one by one. Otherwise, if we just charge over and face such a massive beast tide, even I will die. Hearing Zhao Fu say this, the others had no other ideas and could only rely on Zhao Fu. How do we split up this massive beast tide? Tina Pendragon asked out of curiosity. After all, such a massive beast tide could destroy everything. It would be very difficult to change their direction. Zhao Fu already had a plan, and he explained, it's actually quite simple. We can use some mountains and strange peaks to form a V shape and point it at the beast tide. None of the aquatic beasts will charge at the mountains for no reason and will instead choose to go to the other side. That way, we'll be able to split them up. However, this will require a lot of manpower and resources, so we can only rely on the southern continent. Akhenaten felt quite relieved and smiled as he said, don't worry about that. In front of such a massive beast tide, not only will countless players be scared to death, but even some system main cities will be terrified. They'll naturally help. The southern continent had 7,000 regions in total, and 3,000 regions had started to move. Luckily, the paths between regions have been opened, making it easier for countless people to gather. Even though countless people were helping, it would take some time. The aquatic beasts were simply too ferocious, and they had swept through over 100 regions in a short period of time. 600 million people had been killed, and only a small portion of them had been able to escape. The situation was incredibly dire. Perhaps it was because they had eaten their fill or were tired from running, but the aquatic beasts slowed down. Otherwise, they would not have been able to create a V shape. Chapter 750. The massive beast tide was continuously split apart by the V-shaped mountains, forming groups of thousands or tens of thousands of small beasts that spread out. Luckily, there were 7,000 or so city lords helping out, and they split into smaller groups to kill these aquatic beasts. Otherwise, with the human strength, they would have been completely annihilated by these aquatic beasts without being able to resist at all. However, facing tens of millions of aquatic beasts, these people were still not enough. Akhenaten understood this, so he could only go and convince the city lords to come and see for themselves how serious the situation was. If they could not defend, they would all die together. Facing this kind of danger, the other city lords could only join in after seeing the terrifying scene that the aquatic beasts had created. However, there were still not many of them. Even though the massive beast tide had been split apart, it would take at least half a year to completely wipe out the aquatic beasts. By then, the damage that the aquatic beasts had caused would be 10 or so times worse than it was right now. This forced the southern continent's factions to ask for help from the other continents. It was impossible for the system's city lords to come, as they did not care about the other continents. Right now, the only ones who could help were the player factions. However, many factions were unwilling, as they wanted to preserve their strength and whittle down the southern continent's factions. As such, only a small portion of people were willing to come to the southern continent to help. This was not something that Zhao Fu cared about, as Zhao Fu was already doing his best to help. Of course, Zhao Fu would not help the southern continent. The other legatees had already started to kill aquatic beasts, and Zhao Fu came before a group of 10,000 aquatic beasts. Looking at these strange-looking aquatic beasts, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He could sense that they were not very powerful, but they were quite big. If they were not only big, but they also had the strength of a boss monster, they would not have been able to deal with them. Let alone the human world. No world would be able to stop their rampage. Of course, apart from some high-grade kingdoms, they would not be able to stop their rampage. Looking at these 10,000 aquatic beasts, Zhao Fu deeply breathed in, and the Qin seal within his body continuously trembled as he gathered the power of 400 City Lord seals. Boom! A rainbow-colored aura of flame burst forth from Zhao Fu's body, and his black cloak fluttered wildly in the wind. An extremely terrifying might suddenly descended, and the aquatic beasts that had just eaten their fill and were slowly walking around immediately sensed danger. This was the first time they had felt something like this after entering the human world. The other legatees also felt quite shocked when they sensed this power. At that moment, Zhao Fu took out the Sin Dragon sword and started his slaughter. The 1,000-meter-long black crescent flashed through the horde of aquatic beasts. Aquatic beasts' bodies were sliced open, and blood poured out like fountains. The ground was instantly dyed red, and the stench of blood filled the air. Notification: you have killed the fish scale world's lonesome beast and obtained 1,200 invasion points. Notification: you have killed the fish scale world's blunt green fish and obtained 1,000 invasion points. Notification: you have killed the fish scale world's palm dog and obtained 1,100 invasion points. Zhao Fu killed dozens of aquatic beasts with a single attack, and at the same time, he received countless system announcements about the rewards for killing these aquatic beasts. The deaths of dozens of aquatic beasts enraged the other aquatic beasts, and they roared as they madly charged at Zhao Fu, wanting to kill Zhao Fu. One of the tentacle monsters stretched out countless thick tentacles and whipped toward Zhao Fu with immense force, causing the air to explode. Another shark-like aquatic beast that could float in the air opened its mouth and bit at Zhao Fu. Another swordfish also shot towards Zhao Fu like a bolt of lightning, bringing with it a sharp gust of wind. Zhao Fu stood where he was, and the Sin Dragon sword gave off a brilliant sword light. He casually slashed out, and a sword arc flashed out, slashing apart countless tentacles. The tentacles cried out in pain and instinctively retreated a few steps. The shark arrived in front of Zhao Fu and was about to bite at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu slashed out horizontally, and a black sword light split apart the shark's body, causing it to fall from the sky. The swordfish also flew over, and Zhao Fu dodged to the side. The swordfish passed by Zhao Fu, and, just as it was about to turn around and attack, Zhao Fu stretched out his other hand and gripped it. Countless chains shot out from the air and pierced through the swordfish's body, instantly killing it. After killing 3 aquatic beasts, Zhao Fu did not feel happy at all because many more aquatic beasts were furiously charging over. The scene of 10,000 aquatic beasts rushing over was quite terrifying because of their massive bodies. It was as if they were a ferocious beast tide. Xing! Zhao Fu sent a large amount of power into the Sin Dragon sword and raised it high into the air before slashing down. 3 massive water dragons gave off powerful auras as they roared and charged at the aquatic beast tide. Bang! 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 One after another, the sea beasts were sent flying, making muffled sounds. The 3 water dragons charged into the horde of sea beasts, sending hundreds of sea beasts flying. However, The remaining aquatic beasts continued to ferociously charge over. Zhao Fu did not feel any fear at all, and his body turned into a ray of sword light that left behind a river of sword chi as he shot towards the ferocious aquatic beast tide. The sword light was incredibly sharp and seemed to be unstoppable as it slashed through the aquatic beast tide. Countless aquatic beast bodies were cut into pieces, and blood spurted everywhere, forming a bloody trail. In just an instant, thousands of aquatic beasts had died, causing the other aquatic beasts to feel quite terrified. Bang! Suddenly, a black blur flashed by, and Zhao Fu's body was sent flying, heavily crashing into a few aquatic beasts. These massive aquatic beasts crashed to the ground. Zhao Fu immediately unleashed his Emperor's domain, and even though he had been hit, he was not injured. However, his expression became serious because a 10,000-meter-long python with 3 heads had appeared in front of him. The appearance of this python caused the other aquatic beasts to feel quite afraid, and they did not dare to get close. This showed just how powerful this aquatic beast was. Bang! 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 The 3 heads spat out 3 rays of black light that contained destructive power as they shot toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu quickly dodged to the side, and as the 3 rays of black light landed on the ground, they blasted open 3 craters that were 100 meters wide and 10 or so meters deep. The 10,000-meter-long python was a super aquatic beast in the fish scale world, and it could become an aquatic beast king. It was incredibly powerful, and back then, the fish scale world had sent out 100 city lords, but they had been unable to kill it. Instead, they had suffered heavy losses, so they had brought it into the human world. Seeing that Zhao Fu had dodged, the 3-headed python's cold eyes gave off a trace of killing intent, and its body moved as fast as a black blur as it bit toward Zhao Fu. The 3-headed python was incredibly powerful and incredibly fast, and its 3 heads opened their mouths and bit toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu could only dodge to the side, and the other aquatic beasts had long since left in fear, not daring to participate in this monster-level battle. Chapter 751. After dodging the 3-headed snake's attack, Zhao Fu waved his hand and slashed out a sword light. The sword light, which could normally cut aquatic beasts in half, only left a light wound on the 3-headed snake's body. The 3-headed snake was infuriated and roared as its 3 heads shot out black beams of light, sweeping towards Zhao Fu. These beams of light were like lasers, and wherever they passed, they would leave behind massive ravines, looking incredibly terrifying. The originally fine terrain was instantly destroyed, turning into crisscrossed ravines, cracks, and collapses everywhere. It was a scene of destruction. Zhao Fu narrowly dodged, and when the 3-headed snake finally stopped attacking, he slashed out with all of his strength, sending out a 1,000-meter-long sword light that gave off a heaven-piercing aura as it slashed towards the 3-headed snake. Boom! The massive power of the sword light sent the 3-headed snake's 10,000-meter-long body flying 10 or so meters before crashing to the ground, kicking up a large amount of dust. SSSS. The 3-headed snake was infuriated, and a 1-meter deep gash appeared on its abdomen, from which blood continuously flowed out. Even though this kind of wound was only a small one to it, it had never suffered something like this before. Within the dust, the 3-headed snake raised its heads and opened its mouths, shooting out 3 rays of black light. These rays of black light tore through the air and instantly arrived in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu was unable to dodge, so he could only send out a sword light. Zhao Fu slashed out horizontally, and the sharp sword light cut apart the 3 rays of black light, causing them to turn into motes of light and dissipate. Bang! Suddenly, a black blur slammed into Zhao Fu's body. It was a snake head that was as big as a small mountain. In that instant, the 3-headed snake seemed to teleport, arriving in front of Zhao Fu and attacking Zhao Fu. The massive snake head sent Zhao Fu flying, and he crashed heavily against the mountain. A trace of blood leaked out of Zhao Fu's mouth. This time, Zhao Fu had not been able to use his emperor's domain in time, so he was only slightly injured. Swish, swish, whoosh. The three-headed snake shot out 3 more beams of black light, which flew toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu could only dodge to the side, and the 3 beams of black light struck the mountain, creating 3 large holes in it. Roar! Zhao Fu felt a trace of anger and raised the Sin Dragon Sword with both hands, sending all of his power into it. The Sin Dragon Sword gave off a brilliant sword light and a dragon's roar as 3 water dragons gave off ferocious power and rushed towards the three-headed snake. The three-headed snake's massive body was unable to dodge at all. It was struck by the 3 water dragons, and its 10,000-meter-long body was sent flying back several hundred meters, knocking down a mountain. The deafening sound caused the spectating sea beasts to tremble in fear. Hiss! This time, the three-headed snake was truly enraged. Its body was sent flying by the 3 water dragons, and even though it did not seem to be injured on the surface, it had suffered internal injuries. Blood flowed out of the 3 snake heads' mouths, and it raised its body and let out an ear-piercing screech. The 3-headed snake continuously spat out black spheres of light from its mouth. It was like a machine gun, continuously firing black bullets. Bang! Bang! As the black bullets continuously shot out, Zhao Fu unleashed his emperor's domain and quickly dodged. These black bullets were incredibly powerful, and every one of them would blast open a 10-meter-wide crater on the ground. In just a few moments, there were over 10,000 of these craters on the ground, and the terrain had been completely destroyed. Suddenly, a wave of demonic chi shot into the sky, and the sun in the sky seemed to be dyed black. It no longer gave off heat and instead gave off a boundless demonic intent. An extremely terrifying sword aura appeared, and a wild gale swept out. By now, Zhao Fu's body was surrounded by demonic chi, and he raised a demon sword. Zhao Fu had already switched to the Sky Demon Sword, and he used the Sky Demon Sword's most powerful skill, Demon Sun. The 3-headed snake sensed the immense danger, and its 3 heads were filled with madness and bloodlust. A large amount of black light shot out from its mouth and gathered in front of the middle head, forming a black orb. The black orb continuously absorbed the black light and became larger and larger until it was 100 meters wide. Black arcs of lightning continuously flashed around it, and it gave off an incredibly destructive aura that could make people feel terror. Boom! Zhao Fu slashed out, sending out a black sword light that seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth. Space seemed to be shattered, and everything turned into primal chaos. SSSS. The 3-headed snake gave a massive hiss and sent out the massive black orb, which gave off an aura of destruction as it flew toward Zhao Fu. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out, and the ground continuously trembled. Even the legatees 10 or so regions away heard this explosion and felt the ground tremble. They felt quite shocked, and it seemed that something big had happened on Qin's side. Back at the battlefield, a 100,000-meter wide crater had appeared. The sky was covered with dust, and the heavens and earth were deathly silent. Within the rubble, Zhao Fu coughed up a mouthful of blood and crawled up. The 3-headed snake was not in a good state either. There were many large wounds on its body, and blood continuously flowed out, dyeing the ground red. It was also heavily injured. Zhao Fu's expression became savage as he tapped off the ground, and his body shot out like an arrow towards the 3-headed snake. The 3-headed snake could sense Zhao Fu's attack, and it raised its body as its 3 heads gave off 3 rays of black light that shot toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu slashed out, and an arc of light destroyed the 3 rays of black light. He arrived before the 3-headed snake, and Zhao Fu once again equipped the Sin Dragon Sword. Countless traces of water vapor gathered, forming a 1,000-meter-long water sword. Boom! Zhao Fu slashed out with all of his strength, sending out a terrifying blade of air that brought with it countless berserk winds towards the 3-headed snake. The three-headed snake body gave off a black light as it started to use defensive measures. However, it was still sent flying hundreds of meters by Zhao Fu's attack, and it heavily crashed into the ground, destroying countless trees and causing it to hiss in pain. The three-headed snake was evidently done for, and Zhao Fu once again rushed up, preparing to finish it off. Bang! Suddenly, a massive pillar of water slammed toward Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu was given a big fright and dodged to the side. However, another pillar of water ferociously slammed towards him, and Zhao Fu once again dodged to the side. However, another pillar of water slammed over, and Zhao Fu was unable to dodge and was sent flying. The ground continuously trembled as a mountain-like figure appeared. It was a massive tortoise that was 10,000 meters long. It had a dark green tortoise shell on its back, and its head was that of a dragon. Its 4 claws were very powerful, and it gave off a mountain-like pressure. The three-headed snake was called the three-soul great snake, and it was one of the fish-scale world's aquatic beast kings. This tortoise was also one of the aquatic beast kings, and it was called the earth-water dragon tortoise. The earth-water dragon tortoise was even more difficult to deal with than the three-soul great snake, as it had an incredibly tough tortoise shell. With its defense, almost no one could break through it, and the fish-scale people had paid a great price and effort to lure it into the human world. Chapter 752. Zhao Fu crashed to the ground, his face ashen. He had never thought that another aquatic beast king would appear. He had not even gotten rid of the three-soul great snake yet, and now there was an earth-water dragon tortoise. Zhao Fu felt even more pressure. The earth-water dragon tortoise coldly looked at Zhao Fu. In the next moment, pillars of water that were 3 meters wide suddenly shot up from the ground toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu hurriedly dodged to the side, but the pillars of water continuously shot up from the ground. These pillars of water were incredibly powerful, and if he was hit, he would not just be lightly injured. A 30-meter-long aquatic beast would be smashed to death by these pillars of water. In the end, Zhao Fu could only fly into the air to avoid the pillars of water. The earth-water dragon tortoise's cold gaze did not change, and it did not move at all. Countless traces of water vapor continuously gathered, forming dozens of massive water orbs. Swish, 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 these water orbs contained immense power as they shot towards Zhao Fu, leaving faint traces in the air. Zhao Fu was forced to unleash his emperor's domain, and he continuously dodged as he swung his sword, destroying the incoming water orbs. Right after defending against a wave of attacks, the earth-water dragon tortoise once again condensed massive water orbs, which shot toward Zhao Fu. Let alone attacking, Zhao Fu could not even get close, making him feel quite sullen. This earth-water dragon tortoise was most likely a water type, and because it had incredible control over water, it could use all sorts of water-type skills. As Zhao Fu dealt with the earth-water dragon tortoise's attacks, he thought about how to deal with it. Suddenly, a black shadow shot over, and the three-soul great snake recovered some of its strength. It leapt into the sky and opened its mouth as it bit toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu was given a big fright and hurriedly dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding this attack. The earth-water dragon tortoise grasped this opportunity and spat out a water orb, sending Zhao Fu flying back in the blink of an eye. It contained immense power, and Zhao Fu's emperor's domain was covered with cracks. After stabilizing his body in the air, Zhao Fu made up his mind to attack the earth-water dragon tortoise, or else he would be suppressed by it. Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and rushed towards the earth-water dragon tortoise. Seeing Zhao Fu rush over, the earth-water dragon tortoise once again gathered countless water orbs and shot towards Zhao Fu with immense power. As Zhao Fu rushed forwards, he continuously dodged the water balls. If he could not dodge, he would slash out with his sword, and a sword light would flash out, splitting the water balls in half and causing them to scatter everywhere. As the distance between them closed, a hint of panic appeared in the earth-water dragon tortoise's eyes, and large amounts of water vapor once again gathered around it. Roar! A massive water dragon was condensed by the earth water dragon tortoise and gave off a deafening roar as it gave off a powerful aura and charged at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and sent his power into the Sin Dragon sword before vigorously slashing out. A water dragon also appeared and rushed towards the earth water dragon tortoise with immense power. Bang! The two water dragons collided with immense power, resulting in a massive explosion and causing water to splash everywhere. By now, Zhao Fu had already rushed in front of the earth water dragon tortoise, and his sword gave off a terrifying sword light as he slashed towards it. However, the earth water dragon tortoise immediately retracted its head back into its shell. The terrifying sword light only left a shallow mark on the tortoise shell, not harming it in the slightest. This greatly infuriated Zhao Fu, and just as he was about to attack, countless pillars of water shot up from the ground, forcing Zhao Fu back once again. Bang! A black orb of light sent Zhao Fu flying back, and the three-souled great snake grasped this opportunity to once again attack. It wanted to take revenge for the pain it had suffered from before tenfold. Zhao Fu was once again sent flying, and he landed on the ground and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Bang! 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 The earth water dragon tortoise once again stretched out its head and condensed water orbs, which shot toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu could only dodge to the side, feeling incredibly annoyed as he was being suppressed by two aquatic beasts. Suddenly, Zhao Fu thought of something and quickly thought of something. SSSS. The three-souled great snake gave a hiss as it once again opened its mouth and bit toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed, and his sword gave off an intense sword wind as he once again sent the three-souled great snake flying. Its massive body crashed to the ground, causing the ground to tremble and leaves to fall like rain. Swish, 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 the incredibly wretched earth-water dragon tortoise once again condensed countless water orbs, which shot toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu could only dodge to the side. By now, Zhao Fu had already thought of countermeasure. He took out the sky demon sword and raised it with his other hand as he unleashed Hell's Gates. Roar! 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 Countless demons rushed out of the black hole and rushed towards the earth-water dragon tortoise. However, the earth-water dragon tortoise showed no fear. Water vapor madly condensed, forming tens of thousands of water orbs in just an instant. A terrifying aura spread out as tens of thousands of water orbs shot towards the countless demons. Bang! 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 The water orbs smashed into the demons, and the massive force shattered them. The terrifying demon tide was instantly destroyed by the countless water orbs. Suddenly, a streak of light shot towards the earth-water dragon tortoise at an extremely fast speed. This gave the earth-water dragon tortoise a fright, and it immediately retracted its head and claws into its shell. A green sword shot towards the earth-water dragon tortoise. It was the Sin Dragon sword that Zhao Fu had thrown out. The sword stabbed into the ground in front of the earth-water dragon tortoise, and only after a while did the earth-water dragon tortoise dare to stretch out its head and claws again. Zhao Fu coldly laughed as an emperor's seal appeared on his palm. Immediately, a massive wave of energy spread out from his palm, and the Sin Dragon sword in front of the earth-water dragon tortoise gave off a brilliant sword light. The ground started to tremble, and the earth-water dragon tortoise sensed something and panicked. It tried to run in another direction, but it was too late. Boom! A 10,000-meter wide pillar of water suddenly rushed out from below the earth-water dragon tortoise. The massive force sent the massive earth-water dragon tortoise flying 10,000 meters into the sky before heavily crashing down, causing the ground to tremble. The earth-water dragon tortoise had smashed open a 100,000-meter wide crater in the ground, and it looked like a meteor had crashed into it. Countless trees and boulders were destroyed. The earth-water dragon tortoise's appearance was even more wretched. Blood continuously flowed out of its mouth, and it seemed to have been heavily injured. Zhao Fu wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. That king's profoundness had used up a lot of Zhao Fu's strength, and Zhao Fu was currently quite weak. Zhao Fu had thought of the king's profoundness that he had never used before. Before, he had used the Sky Demon Sword to cast it, but now, Zhao Fu had to use the Sin Dragon Sword. There was also the method that the eagle used to eat the tortoise. The tortoise's shell was incredibly tough, and the eagle was unable to eat it. As such, it carried the tortoise into the sky and then heavily smashed it down. The larger the tortoise, the greater the impact. As such, the earth-water dragon tortoise had been heavily injured in just one strike. Chapter 753. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu was once again sent flying, heavily crashing against a cliff. Countless cracks appeared on the cliff, and Zhao Fu coughed up a large mouthful of blood. He had been quite weak, and facing this sudden attack, Zhao Fu had been heavily injured. A 10,000-meter-long aquatic beast king that looked like a lizard was covered with reefs. Its eyes were green, and it gave off a fishy smell, and it was incredibly powerful. Another aquatic beast king had been lured over. This time, it was called the reef lizard. The reef lizard had shot out a rhombus-shaped reef, which had instantly pierced through Zhao Fu's defenses and sent Zhao Fu flying. Even though the reef lizard was easier to deal with than the earth-water dragon tortoise, Zhao Fu was already heavily injured and was not a match for it all. At the same time, there was also the three-colored snake and the earth-water dragon tortoise, which had preserved some of its strength. Now that he could not defeat it, Zhao Fu could only choose to run. His body suddenly turned into a ray of light and quickly flew to the side. The reef lizard mocked, and its back started to wriggle as thousands of rhombus-shaped reefs that were 3 meters long shot toward Zhao Fu. With so many reefs giving off massive penetrative power, if Zhao Fu was hit by one, he would definitely be heavily injured. As such, Zhao Fu could only stop and dodge as he defended. Bang! Zhao Fu was suddenly blasted flying by an intense explosion and heavily crashed to the ground. Blood flowed out, dyeing Zhao Fu completely red. Scree! A bird's cry tore through the clouds as a large bird appeared in the sky. This bird did not have any feathers and only had gray scales. Its eyes were blue and its claws were like steel, giving off a cold light. Its body also gave off a blue flame that gave off an intense heat. This heat was no ordinary heat. It was like steam. The blue flame on the bird's body was water attributed. The large bird spread its wings, which were also 10,000 meters wide. It was like a black shadow that covered the sky. Another type of sea beast king had arrived. This aquatic beast king was called the Go-Scale Flame Bird, and it was the one that had released the blue fireball that had blasted Zhao Fu away. Zhao Fu coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and stood up with difficulty. The reef lizard, three-soul great snake, Go-Scale Flame Bird, and earth-water dragon tortoise coldly looked at Zhao Fu and once again unleashed different attacks toward Zhao Fu. Sensing these 4 terrifying attacks, Zhao Fu felt a chill in his heart. He could only use his nation armament, or else he would die. Suddenly, 4 figures appeared beside Zhao Fu. Masanori Hanno held a demonic halberd and vigorously swung it, sending out countless traces of demonic chi to block the reef that the reef lizard shot out. Jeffrey held his spear and blocked the 3-soul great snake's black light. Tina Pendragon slashed out, and a golden sword light split the massive blue fireball in half, while Akhenaten unleashed a shield of light, blocking a massive water ball. Looking at the 4 people who had appeared, Zhao Fu's expression was quite complicated. He had never thought that they would save him. It was not just the aquatic beast kings that were attracted by the ripples. The other legatees also sensed the terrifying ripples and understood that something big had happened. Seeing the aftermath of the battle, everyone felt incredibly shocked. Seeing that Zhao Fu was surrounded by the 4 aquatic beast kings, they hurriedly acted. Jeffrey and Tina Pendragon did not have any selfish motives and directly acted. Masanori Hanno had some other thoughts, and because of these thoughts, she acted even faster than the others. As for Akhenaten, because Zhao Fu was an incredibly important person. He could not allow anything to happen to him. Without Qin's legatee, it would be difficult for him in the future. If it wasn't for the fact that the southern continent had suffered, Akhenaten would not have acted to save Zhao Fu. He would have ended up like CG and the others watching from afar. Even though they had to face the invasion of another world as legatees, as long as the world was not in danger, they were still competitors. With Qin's legatee's terrifying power, who knew if he would act against them in the future? Moreover, the aquatic beast king's power was quite terrifying, and they felt that they would not be a match for them, even if they went up. Of course, they could not use world energy, because the world had not been destroyed yet. So how could they use world energy? World energy was not something that Zhao Fu and the others could use whenever they wanted. It had its own consciousness, and they could only use it if it wanted to give it to them. After all, world energy came from the world's source energy, and it greatly affected the entire world. Unless the world was truly destroyed, it would not give it to them. They felt that they would not be able to defeat the aquatic beast kings, and they also wanted to weaken Qin's legatee's power. As such, they could only watch from afar. I can deal with this myself. You don't need to do anything, Zhao Fu said to the 4 legatees. Zhao Fu did not want to accept favors from others, as favors were the hardest things to repay. These words immediately made Akhenaten feel quite displeased. If it wasn't for the southern continent, he would not have helped Qin's legatee. Perhaps if Qin's legatee died, they would have a chance to replace him. However, even though Akhenaten thought this, he did not say anything. Jeffrey dryly laughed. Facing Zhao Fu's refusal, he said, Qin's legatee, this isn't something that you can deal with by yourself. This aquatic beast king is too terrifying, and even I might not be able to stop one, let alone 4. Tina Pendragon lightly nodded and said, Jeffrey is right. As legatees, facing such a massive crisis is not something that can be dealt with by one person. We should work together and help each other. Masanori Hano's face became slightly red as she nodded. Zhao Fu did not reply and looked at the sky seriously as he said, If you don't run, we'll all die here. Before anyone could understand what Zhao Fu meant, CG and the others sensed something in the distance, and their expressions fell as they quickly ran. For incredibly terrifying auras once again descended, giving off a power that could cause people to feel despair and terror. Now, Tina Pendragon and the others understood what Zhao Fu meant. From the east, a jellyfish slowly floated over. This jellyfish was 10,000 meters long, and its body was transparent. It had countless tentacles, and it was surrounded by countless clouds, giving off an ethereal yet powerful aura. This was the aquatic beast king, the heavenly cloud jellyfish. From the west, a whale flew over. This whale was 10,000 meters long and had pale white skin. There were 18 blood-red eyes on its head, and it gave off a ferocious demonic chi. This was the aquatic beast king, the Netherocian demon whale. A stingray also flew over from the south. This stingray was 10,000 meters long, and its body seemed to be made of steel. Its tail gave off a chilling light, and it gave off a heavy metallic aura. This was the oceanic beast king, the sift metal stingray. From the north, there was a massive beast that looked like a flood dragon, but had no legs. Its body was 10,000 meters long and was covered with violet scales. It gave off a terrifying might. The aquatic beast king, the Sin Flood Dragon. Chapter 754. With the addition of 4 more aquatic beast kings, there were now 8 aquatic beast kings present. The original 4 aquatic beast kings retreated some distance, and the 8 aquatic beast kings each took a corner and gave off heaven-toppling auras. This was an unprecedented, terrifying aura, and the space around them seemed to be locked down. The corporeal might they gave off made all living creatures feel terror. These 8 aquatic beast kings were aquatic beasts that guarded the 8 regions of the fish scale world, and the fish scale people had no way of dealing with them. As such, they had lured them into the human world to bring disaster to the human world. Their plan had been quite successful. With these 8 aquatic beast kings and countless other aquatic beasts, it could be seen how difficult it was for the fish-scale people to survive. In comparison, the human world was much better off. I told you to hurry up and run. Now that we're surrounded by 8 aquatic beast kings, no one can escape, Zhao Fu said as he sighed. But if we leave, what will you do? Masanori Hano asked caringly. Hearing this, Zhao Fu did not reply. 3 aquatic beast kings were already enough to heavily injure him, and facing 8 aquatic beast kings, Zhao Fu did not have any confidence at all. Let's take this opportunity to run. We'll need to gather other people to deal with beasts of this level. If we had 100 region lords, dealing with 1 aquatic beast king wouldn't be a problem. It's a pity that system main cities can now slaughter players, and the region lords have lost all restrictions. They can go wherever they want and do whatever they want. Akhenaten said seriously. Even though they would not truly die here, they would suffer great losses, so no one wanted to die. Swish, swish, swish! The heaven cloud jellyfish was the first to attack, and its countless tentacles swept toward Zhao Fu like the wind. Each tentacle gave off a cold light that could easily cut through steel. Zhao Fu had long since consumed the best healing medicine, and his injuries quickly recovered. The 5 of them turned into rays of light and shot off in different directions. Out of Tina Pendragon's group of 4, only Tina Pendragon had the confidence to deal with an aquatic beast king. The other 3 did not have much confidence at all. Bang! The sound of something being sliced apart sounded out as the countless tentacles gave off sharp cold lights as they swept past. The place where Zhao Fu and the others had been standing was reduced to countless tiny pieces, looking quite terrifying. Even though the 5 of them had dodged the heaven cloud jellyfish's attack, the other aquatic beast kings also started to attack. The 3-soul great snake, earth water dragon tortoise, and reef lizard immediately attacked Zhao Fu. The first 2 had enmity with Zhao Fu, while the latter thought that Zhao Fu would be easier to deal with. The Netherocian demon whale and Sin flood dragon started to attack Tina Pendragon, as they felt that she was the greatest threat. The ghost scale flame bird faced off against Masanori Hano. The Sif metal stingray faced off against Akhenaten, and the heaven cloud jellyfish faced off against Jeffrey. On Zhao Fu's side, not only did Zhao Fu recover quickly, but the aquatic beast king's recovery speed was also quite shocking. The 3-soul great snake and earth water dragon tortoise, who had been heavily injured, had mostly recovered. The reef lizard was the first to attack. Its back squirmed as countless rhombus-shaped reefs containing immense penetrative power shot toward Zhao Fu. The earth water dragon tortoise also condensed countless water orbs and shot toward Zhao Fu, while the 3-soul great snake madly spat out 3 rays of black light. Bang! 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 Explosions sounded out as these attacks completely inundated Zhao Fu's body, causing the ground to continuously tremble. The 3 beasts madly attacked, causing the surrounding 10 kilometers to be filled with craters. Dust filled the air, and just as the 3 beasts felt quite pleased, thinking that they had killed Zhao Fu, a black ray of light shot out from the dust and escaped. Even though the 3 beast attacks covered a large area, they were not as powerful. Zhao Fu unleashed his emperor's domain and hid at the edges, enduring this wave of attacks. He was not in the mood to continue fighting. Escaping was the most important thing right now. Roar! Seeing that Zhao Fu was going to escape, the earth-water dragon tortoise furiously roared, and a powerful aura exploded out as thousands of pillars of water shot up from the ground, cutting off Zhao Fu's path. The 3-soul great snake also furiously roared and leapt at Zhao Fu. The 2 of them had been heavily injured by Zhao Fu before, and their bodies were still in immense pain. They hated Zhao Fu to death, so how could they let him off? With his path cut off, the 3-soul great snake opened its mouth and bit toward Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and could only stop. Seeing the 3-soul great snake coming at him, Zhao Fu felt quite angry. He sent his power into the Sin Dragon Sword, and the three water dragons ferociously slammed into the three-soul great snake and sent it flying. The three-soul great snake's massive body crashed to the ground, smashing open a large crater and kicking up a large amount of dust. The ground once again violently trembled, and countless trees swayed and leaves fell. Just as Zhao Fu was about to move, his body froze, and he was unable to move. An extremely powerful sealing power had bound Zhao Fu's body. The reef lizard's green eyes looked at Zhao Fu with a mocking and disdainful gaze. This was its other ability, Ocean Prison. The earth water dragon tortoise was delighted, and it opened its mouth and spat out a water bullet, which contained immense power as it tore through the air and shot toward Zhao Fu. Sensing the reef lizard's gaze, Zhao Fu felt infuriated and struggled to break free. However, the water bullet had already arrived, and Zhao Fu blocked with his sword. However, the water bullet was incredibly powerful, and it sent Zhao Fu flying back in an instant. After heavily crashing to the ground, Zhao Fu coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The reef lizard once again attacked, and countless rhombus-shaped reefs gave off terrifying sounds as they rushed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's gaze became savage as he took out the seraph sword and gripped it with his other hand. Facing the rhombus-shaped reefs, Zhao Fu gripped the sword with both hands and locked onto the reefs. The reefs gave off ferocious piercing power as they descended, and Zhao Fu swung the two swords with both hands, sending out rays of sword light and a sharp sword wind. Every falling reef was destroyed by the sword light. After blocking the reef lizard's attack, Zhao Fu suddenly raised the seraph sword, and a holy and pure image of an angel appeared above Zhao Fu's head. It gave a pure smile and spread out its 6 pairs of wings, causing countless rays of white light to shine out as a powerful wave of holy light energy spread out. Boom! Zhao Fu vigorously slashed down, and a massive white ray of light containing searing power rushed towards the reef lizard. The reef lizard was given a big fright, but it was unable to dodge and was hit by the white ray of light. The searing power seemed to burn its body, causing it to howl. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out, causing Zhao Fu's hairs to stand on end, and he felt a terrifying sense of danger. However, before he could react, he was sent flying by the black shadow and crashed into a boulder hundreds of meters away. The massive force from the collision caused the boulder to shatter. Chapter 755. Cough, cough, cough. Zhao Fu continuously coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood and got up from the ground with great difficulty. That attack from before had broken a few of Zhao Fu's bones. At that moment, a flame of fury appeared in Zhao Fu's eyes. Now that he could not escape, he could only charge up and fight. He slashed out with all of his strength, bringing with it a massive sword wind as it swept towards the three beasts. Tina Pendragon's situation was not looking good either. Even though she was only facing 2 beasts, which was 1 less than Zhao Fu, she could only take on 1 at most. Now that she was facing 2 beasts, she was clearly not a match for them and was in a difficult situation. The Netherocian demon whale savagely looked at Tina Pendragon with its blood-red eyes and opened its massive mouth, sucking in large amounts of air before spitting it out. A pillar of air containing destructive power shot towards Tina Pendragon. Tina Pendragon gripped her golden sword with both hands, and her body gave off a faint golden light. She looked incredibly dignified and beautiful, and she entered her full power mode. Facing the ferocious pillar of air, Tina Pendragon dodged to the side, and the pillar of air hit a large mountain. It was a mountain that was hundreds of meters tall, and in just an instant, the mountain violently trembled as a 100-meter wide hole appeared. It was evident just how terrifying the Netherocian demon whale's attack was. Bang! Bang! 10 violet spears of light tore through the air, giving off 10 explosions. The 10 spears gave off incredibly sharp auras as they shot towards Tina Pendragon, who had just dodged the Netherocian demon whale's attack. The Sin Flood dragon raised its proud body and attacked as well. The 10 spears of light were 100 meters long and gave off terrifying auras. They were also incredibly fast, and Tina Pendragon was unable to dodge at all. She could only remain where she was and gripped her sword with both hands. Just as the spears of light shot over, she suddenly slashed out 10 times, causing 10 golden sword lights to simultaneously fly out. The 10 violet spears of light exploded with a bang as they were slashed apart by the golden sword lights, turning into countless violet motes of light that fell down, looking incredibly beautiful. Roar! The Netherosian demon whale appeared behind Tina Pendragon and gave off a roar. It once again opened its massive mouth and sucked in a large amount of air. This time, it spat out a 1,000-meter-wide air bomb, which gave off a shocking aura as it shot towards Tina Pendragon. Tina Pendragon had just blocked the Sin Flood Dragon's attack, and facing this terrifying attack, she did not even have the time to turn around. She could only explode out with boundless golden light, forming a golden defensive barrier. Bang! The 1,000-meter-wide air bomb gave off terrifying sounds as it slammed into Tina Pendragon's defensive barrier and exploded, turning into a massive gale that spread out in all directions. Tina Pendragon, Pendragon's words, and Pendragon's of Tina Pendragon, Pendragon's blood. SSS. Pendragon, Pendragons of. Tina Pendragon was given a big fright and continuously slashed out with her sword, causing 2 golden sword lights to slash 2 of the snakes into countless traces of violet aura. However, the 3rd snake ferociously bit into the left side of Tina Pendragon's body, and its fangs pierced through. Blood flowed out of Tina Pendragon's silver-white knight's dress, dyeing it red. Tina Pendragon endured the pain as the golden sword in her right hand gave off waves of sword light. She vigorously slashed out, causing a crescent-shaped sword light to shoot out, cutting the violet snake in half from head to tail. Bang! After being cut in half, the 100-meter-long snake exploded into countless traces of violet aura. At that moment, Tina Pendragon's expression became serious. She raised her golden sword, and a formless sword aura exploded out as 8 massive golden ripples appeared in the air. 8 massive golden swords, giving off brilliant golden light and terrifying power, slowly stretched out from the ripples. Boom! Tina Pendragon slashed down, and the 8 golden swords gave off boundless divine power as they shot towards the Sin Flood Dragon and Netherosian demon whale incredibly quickly, dyeing the entire sky golden. Roar! Roar! 2 pained, beastly roars sounded out. Facing the 8 100-meter-long golden swords, the 2 aquatic beast kings did not dare to be careless. The Sin Flood Dragon spat out a large amount of violet aura that wrapped around its body. The violet aura looked like gas and did not have any defensive power, but in actuality, it was very flexible and was the Sin Flood Dragon's strongest defense. However, the 4 golden swords tore through the violet aura and stabbed into its body, causing blood to flow out like a fountain. This caused it to cry out in pain. The Netherosian demon whale did the same, and it spat out a shockwave, wanting to block the incoming golden swords. However, the shockwave was instantly destroyed, and the 4 golden swords stabbed into its body. Even though it was painful, it was not enough to heavily injure it. The 100-meter-long golden swords were still too small for the 10,000-meter-long aquatic beast kings. This attack caused the Netherosian demon whale and Sin Flood Dragon to become completely enraged, and they rushed up to fight with Tina Pendragon. On Akhenaten's side, he summoned 3 100-meter-tall clay giants. They picked up massive rocks and threw them at the Sif steel ray in the sky. The massive rocks hit the Sif steel ray's body, resulting in a few metallic sounds. Apart from this, they were not able to harm the Sif steel ray at all. The Sif steel ray flapped its wings and brought with it a sharp metallic storm as it dove down, destroying some trees and rocks. Akhenaten's expression fell, and he controlled the 3 clay giants to give off a powerful aura as they rushed up, wanting to block the Sif steel ray's attack. Bang! A massive sound rang out as dirt flew everywhere. The three clay giants were crushed by the Sif steel ray, and they were unable to stop the Sif steel ray at all. Akhenaten's expression became quite unsightly, and he stabbed his magic staff into the ground, causing a massive, eerie aura to rush out of the ground. A 100-meter tall metal coffin giving off a powerful and eerie aura blocked in front of Akhenaten. Boom! The forest iron ray slammed into the massive metal coffin with its massive metal blade wind, and an ear-piercing sound rang out. Surprisingly, the coffin gave off a gray light that was 10,000 feet long, and it actually blocked the Sif iron ray. Scree! At that moment, the Sif steel ray gave off a massive howl, and its massive body gave off countless rays of light as a terrifying windstorm exploded out. Crack! A crack appeared on the massive metal coffin, and the crack continued to extend. Akhenaten was given a big fright and hurriedly dodged to the side, causing the metal coffin to completely shatter. Akhenaten was also sent flying by the metal storm, and countless wounds appeared on his body. The intense pain made Akhenaten go crazy, and he roared as countless runes appeared on his hand that was holding his magic staff. Chapter 756. The sylvan metal ray's gaze was cold as it continued to rush towards Akhenaten. Boom! At that moment, Akhenaten swung his staff, and a large hand covered in bandages stretched out from the center of the whirlpool. It gave off boundless power as it sent the Sif metal ray flying with a single punch. The Sif metal stingray's massive body fell from the sky, and it howled in pain before once again flapping its wings, giving off terrifying power as it rushed towards Akhenaten. It seemed that the Sif metal stingray was enraged. Bang! 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 The ghost scale flame bird spread its massive wings, and thousands of blue fireballs instantly formed, radiating heat in all directions. The ghost scale flame bird flapped its wings, and the countless fireballs shot towards Masanori Hano. By now, Masanori Hano was completely covered by devil chi, and her eyes had become pure black. She held a demonic halberd and darted back and forth like a bolt of lightning, dodging the incoming fireballs. Bang! Seeing Masanori Hano dodge, the ghost scale flame bird flapped its wings and once again attacked. It shot out like an arrow, and its massive body made it impossible for Masanori Hano to dodge. Masanori Hano's body was like a sandbag as she smashed into the ground, blasting open a large crater. Scree! The ghost scale flame bird gave an ear-piercing cry as it flapped its wings and swooped down, its sharp claws swiping towards Masanori Hano in the crater. Ark! Masanori Hano coughed up a mouthful of blood as she looked at the ghost scale flame bird charging at her. She gave a sharp cry, and a jet-black devil chi rushed into the sky as a blood-red moon, giving off boundless devil chi, and a terrifying might slowly descended. Bang! 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 An extremely terrifying power exploded out from Masanori Hano's body, and the ground around her started to collapse and turn into nothingness. Boom! At that moment, the ghost scale flame bird ferociously swiped down with its claws. Masanori Hano's demonic halberd gave off a massive power, and the ghost scale flame bird was sent flying back. Scree! The ghost scale flame bird steadied itself in the air and gave a pained cry. There was a 2-meter deep gash on its chest, and blood continuously flowed out. Bang! The ghost scale flame bird's eyes were filled with anger and killing intent. The blue flames around its body expanded by many times, completely enveloping its body. At that moment, it had completely turned into a blue fire bird, emitting a scorching heat that could be felt from miles away. Ow! The ghost scale flame bird once again flapped its wings and dove towards Masanori Hano. A trace of madness appeared in Masanori Hano's eyes, and she swung her halberd, causing a massive blood-red flame to erupt around her body. She stepped off the ground, causing the ground to crack as she shot into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions continuously sounded out in the surrounding hundreds of kilometers, and the terrifying shock waves caused people's hearts to tremble. The ghost-scale flame bird and Masanori Hanno started a terrifying battle. Jeffrey waved his spear, and the hundreds of two-winged angel images around him shot towards the heaven cloud jellyfish. Bang, bang, bang. Before the angel images could get close to the heaven cloud jellyfish, they were blocked by a formless barrier, causing them to explode. This formless barrier was the heaven cloud jellyfish's powerful defensive ability, and it was called the heaven barrier. Because the heaven cloud jellyfish was very slow, it had developed powerful defenses. The heaven barrier was incredibly tough, and ordinary city lords would not be able to break through it. Swish, swish, swish. After blocking Jeffrey's attack, the heaven cloud jellyfish also started to attack, and countless tentacles once again shot towards Jeffrey. Jeffrey quickly dodged, because if he was caught by these tentacles, his body would be instantly shredded into countless pieces. Heaven's Spear. After dodging the attack, Jeffrey once again rushed towards the heaven cloud jellyfish. The white spear in his hand gave off a brilliant light, making it look like a sun. Boom! A formless barrier once again appeared in front of him, and this time, Jeffrey roared as he vigorously stabbed out with his spear. A white ray of light containing unstoppable power slammed into the formless barrier, causing countless spatial ripples to appear on the barrier. Bang! The white ray of light pierced through the formless barrier and landed on the heaven cloud jellyfish's body, causing it to sway. Even though it could not make any sounds, it seemed to be injured, and Jeffrey looked delighted. He could finally attack it. However, in the next second, Jeffrey felt a bone-chilling power. A white eyeball had appeared on the heaven cloud jellyfish's body. Bang! Jeffrey's body was sent flying by a formless energy, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. He stabilized his body in the air, but another formless energy continued to attack him, forcing him to dodge and defend. However, he was not a match for the heaven cloud jellyfish. The white eyeball flashed with a cold light, and 10 rays of formless energy sent Jeffrey flying. Boom! Zhao Fu sent the reef lizard flying with a single slash, and it crashed into a mountain and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Zhao Fu was not in a good state either. His abdomen had been pierced by a piece of reef, and blood continuously flowed out. It was not just Zhao Fu's side that was in a bad state. One of Tina Pendragon's arms had been crippled, and her silver-white knight's dress was riddled with cracks. The Netherocian demon whale and Sin Flood Dragon had also suffered heavy injuries, but in terms of power and recovery speed, they were superior to Tina Pendragon. Now, Tina Pendragon could only wield her sword with one hand and defend with great difficulty. She was completely suppressed by the 2 aquatic beast kings, and it was possible that she would be instantly killed in the next second. Akhenaten was in an even worse state. His body was covered with countless wounds, and blood dyed his body red. He was barely able to defend against the Sift Metal Stingray's attacks, but it was only a matter of time before he lost. Masanori Hanno had been smashed into the ground by the ghost-scale flame bird and was on her last breaths. She had already lost and was only a step away from death. However, the ghost-scale flame bird also seemed to be heavily injured, and there were countless wounds all over its body, from which blood continuously flowed out. On the other side, Jeffrey felt as if he had been kicked by a ball. He was sent flying by a formless energy and then sent flying back, and his body was covered with injuries. Bang! The 3-soul great snake suddenly attacked while Zhao Fu was observing the battlefield. A ray of black light hit Zhao Fu's back, causing Zhao Fu to stumble and cough up a mouthful of blood, and he almost fell from the sky. Zhao Fu looked at the 3-soul great snake and madly glared at the 3-soul great snake, causing it to instinctively retreat in fear. However, it felt humiliated and once again hissed at Zhao Fu. By now, Zhao Fu had made his decision and ignored the 3-soul great snake as he said loudly, "All of you, get further away from these aquatic beasts." No one understood what Zhao Fu was trying to do, but they still listened to Zhao Fu and quickly distanced themselves from the aquatic beasts. Chapter 757. Zhao Fu stood in the air, and the black and gold chain seal floated above his head, giving off a soul-devouring black light. Massive ripples appeared in the air, and a dangerous aura filled the sky. All city lords, heed my command. Zhao Fu raised his hand and roared. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Great Qin turned into a black dragon and shot into the sky, exploding out with an intense black light that covered the surroundings. Great Qin's might was like a massive hand that pressed down on the air, causing countless trees to snap and boulders to explode and the ground to crack and collapse. The city lords in Qin City felt their city lord seals tremble, and they understood that Zhao Fu was using their power. City lord seals floated out of the city lords' bodies, giving off different lights and powerful auras. Southeastern City, heed my command. Westpan City, heed my command. Full Moon City, heed my command. White City, heed my command. Water City, heed my command. Peaceful Heart City, heed my command. Loud roars sounded out as city lord seals exploded out with terrifying auras and shot into the sky, giving off brilliant lights and turning into stars. A strange scene appeared in the sky above Qin City. 400 or so stars were scattered in different directions, giving off powerful auras and illuminating the surroundings. Boom! As the city lords sent their power into Qin's city lord seals, boundless black light exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. A black pillar of light shot into the sky and slammed into the sky, giving off a deafening explosion as heaven and earth essence Qi madly gathered. A vortex quickly formed in the sky, and it gave off a powerful attractive force that devoured everything like a black hole. Trees were uprooted, and boulders were swept into the sky. It was as if a catastrophe had descended. Tina Pendragon and the others looked at the power that Zhao Fu had exploded out with in shock. The 8 aquatic beast kings also sensed an immense sense of danger, and they started to think about escaping. This place was covered by a haze, and the aquatic beasts and city lords in the distance could sense these terrifying ripples, causing them to look terrified. However, Zhao Fu was not done yet. Within Qin City Hall, the 12 metal colossi, Imperial Ruler's Seal, Nation-Suppressing Pillar, and Qin Emperor Peacock seemed to be summoned by something and continuously trembled. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the 4 pillars of light shot into the sky with terrifying power. Traces of black fate floated up from the ground and floated towards the 4 pillars of light, and the ocean-like fate was halved. Bang! A deafening explosion sounded out, and the heavens and earth seemed to have exploded. A heavenly pressure descended, and the space around Zhao Fu directly collapsed, turning into darkness. An extremely terrifying and dangerous aura filled the space between heaven and earth. Not only did Akhenaten and the others feel like ants in front of him, but the 8 aquatic beasts also felt like little beasts. For the first time, endless fear surged in their hearts. It was as if a huge chill had entered their souls, causing their bodies to tremble. The 8 aquatic beast kings looked terrified and quickly retreated. They wanted to escape because they could sense the threat of death. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of chains rang out as at least 1 million chains shot out from all directions, giving off ferocious sounds as they shot towards the 8 aquatic beast kings. The chains quickly bound up the aquatic beast kings. Roar, roar, roar. The 8 aquatic beast kings furiously roared and vigorously struggled, wanting to break free from the chains. However, no matter how they struggled, they were unable to break free at all. The shattered space quickly reformed, revealing Zhao Fu, who gave off a shocking might as he looked at the 8 aquatic beast kings struggling in terror. Zhao Fu's gaze was cold as he slowly descended to the ground and squatted down. He pressed his palm against the ground, and a formless energy spread out. The chains binding the aquatic beast kings started to drag them underground. Roar, roar, roar. The 8 aquatic beast kings roared in terror as they madly struggled, but they were still dragged underground by the countless chains. After being dragged underground, the 8 aquatic beast kings continued to struggle unwillingly, causing the ground to violently tremble and ripples to appear on the surface of the water. At that moment, Zhao Fu took out an azure spear. This spear was called the Azure Wolf Spear. It was an epic grade weapon. Zhao Fu gripped the spear, and the azure spear seemed to be dyed black. Even the item spirit, a massive azure wolf, became a demon wolf. Boom! Zhao Fu vigorously stabbed the black spear into the ground. The spear sank 1 meter into the ground, and a 1,000-meter wide emperor seal appeared. A black light spread out, and the ground became calm again. The 8 aquatic beast kings no longer showed any signs of life. Cough! Half squatting on the ground, Zhao Fu once again coughed up a large mouthful of blood and almost fell to the ground. Zhao Fu immediately took out a bottle of healing pills and consumed them, causing his injuries to slowly recover. Only now did Zhao Fu look at the others. Only 2 people could barely stand, Tina Pendragon and Akhenaten. No matter what their goal was for them to take such a great risk to save him and put him in such danger, Zhao Fu had to thank them. Tina Pendragon forced a smile and inwardly sighed. She had not been of much use this time, and the 2 aquatic beast kings had forced her into a dead end. In the end, it was Zhao Fu who had resolved this matter. Compared to him, she was far inferior. Akhenaten dryly laughed. He had always regretted coming to save Zhao Fu, but hearing Zhao Fu thank him for the first time, he did not feel any regret. Everything he had done to obtain a trace of friendship from Zhao Fu was enough. Jeffrey's handsome face was now bruised and swollen. He lay on the ground and smiled at Zhao Fu with great difficulty, looking quite pitiful. Zhao Fu took out a bottle of Qin's special healing medicine and placed it in front of Jeffrey. Jeffrey did not hesitate to take it and consume it before summoning an angel image to heal him. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the crater and looked at Masanori Hanno, who had fainted. Zhao Fu picked her up and fed her a healing medicinal pill as well as water of life. After a while, Masanori Hanno slowly woke up, seeing that she was in Zhao Fu's embrace. Her face became red and she sat up. As a devil, her recovery abilities were quite powerful. Everyone recovered from their injuries and started to look at the situation. The results were quite delightful. After the 8 aquatic beast kings had been sealed by Zhao Fu, the aquatic beast tide seemed to have lost its center of gravity. Even though there were still some aquatic beasts charging forwards, many of them had stopped and found a place to rest. Some had run towards the human world's oceans, and the crisis of the aquatic beast tide had been resolved for now. This time, the southern continent's city lords and generals had killed many aquatic beasts, numbering around 4 million or so. Chapter 758. Another thing that made everyone happy was that Zhao Fu had obtained a massive amount of invasion points from sealing the 8 aquatic beast kings. This massive amount of invasion points was enough for Zhao Fu to exchange for a capital city. In other words, Zhao Fu was only half away from obtaining a capital city. This would allow Qin to take another big step on his path to restoring his nation. However, Qin had lost a lot of faith this time, and Zhao Fu had used up half of it. This was the only thing that made Zhao Fu's heart ache. Zhao Fu met CG and the others. They looked at Zhao Fu awkwardly, but Zhao Fu did not mind. After all, no one had the responsibility to help others. Even if they did not help others, they would not have done anything wrong. After all, it was their own choice whether to help or not. In the real world, this might be morally reprehensible, but in terms of duty and responsibility, he had not done anything wrong. As such, Zhao Fu did not mind. Of course, if they were in danger again, Zhao Fu would not go and help them either. Before, everyone had planned to continue killing the aquatic beasts in the human world, but the human world's crisis had not been resolved. Instead, it had become even worse. That's because the seawater has already flooded 50 or so regions. This was the fish scale people's extermination plan. They had thought about and prepared for this plan for a long time, and those who believed that the fish scale people were kind were like pigs. They did not even know how they had died. In times of peace, there was nothing wrong with this. They had not truly invaded the human world, and they had not even taken a step into the human world. However, they wanted to exterminate the human world, and their methods were incredibly vicious. They wanted to exterminate every single human and everything related to the human world. Compared to the fish scale world, the human world's fatal weakness was that it could not breathe or live underwater. However, the fish scale people did not have this weakness, as they could breathe and live underwater. The fish scale world was more than twice as big as the human world because the legacy land was based on a real world. For example, the human world was tens of times bigger than Earth. If the fish scale world was bigger than Earth in the real world, then the Heaven Awakened world would also be bigger than Earth. 90% of their world was made up of water, and there was enough water to drown the human world. Right now, beside the crack, millions of magic formations were operating at the same time, and the seawater was like a dam that released a flood, flooding into the human world. Over at the southern continent, the fish scale people started to carry out their plan. They had thought that the 8 aquatic beast kings would lead millions of aquatic beasts to ravage the entire southern continent, and they had been very confident in the 8 aquatic beast kings' power. The reason for that was because the inheritors on their side were also no match for the sea beast king. They were practically completely oppressed by the sea beast king. The sea beasts were wreaking havoc on the front lines, eliminating and destroying everything, while they carried out the extermination plan from the back. This was an excellent coordination. In their eyes, the human world was pitifully weak and liked to fight with each other. If it had been a few 100 million people guarding the crack, they would not have been able to carry out their plan so easily. The sounds and shock waves from the aquatic beasts would have been detected by the humans, and they would have faced great resistance. However, the humans had retreated, leaving behind only 3 million people. In the face of an invasion from the human world, these 3 million people were not even worth mentioning. More importantly, they did not have any experts defending them, and they were just a bunch of trash. That was why their plan had been so successful. The fish scale people felt that the humans were all like this, so they could not stop them at all. They had already taken the human world for themselves. It was a pity that they had never thought that the 8 aquatic beast kings guarding the fish scale world would be sealed by Zhao Fu so quickly. This was completely out of their expectations. However, such a big matter like this would be discovered sooner or later. Right now, they had to quickly construct magic formations and send more seawater into the human world. They were incredibly fast, and in just a day, they had already flooded 50 or so regions. This sort of speed was like a flood that could not be avoided or escaped. No matter what race they were in those 50 or so regions, not a single one was left alive. In fact, some fish and prawns were unable to escape as they were flooded with seawater. Fish and prawns that lived in freshwater could not survive in seawater. Moreover, this seawater was the fish scale world's seawater, which was even more salty. Many plants and creatures in the fish scale world had adapted and evolved, but the human world had not. This seawater was incredibly destructive, and this was the fish scale world's extermination plan. This extermination plan was not as simple as it sounded. It was to truly exterminate all humans and not leave a single one alive. Even though the human players would not truly die and could escape back to the real world, if the world was flooded and the Heaven Awakened world devoured the real world, it would be the end of the human race. The seawater flooded 50 or so regions and continued to spread out incredibly quickly. This method of exterminating an entire race caused Zhao Fu to feel incredibly furious, and everyone else's expressions were the same. To deal with the threat of the seawater, they could only go to the source and cut it off. Only then would the seawater stop. However, when Zhao Fu and the others arrived, they found countless fish scale people gathered at the chasm. There were countless players and indigenous residents, and there were roughly 1 billion of them. Their goal was not to attack, but to defend. This was because they did not have to pay any casualties. The aquatic beasts were a threat to the fish scale world, so the fish scale people were not worried about their survival. They just had to defend here and prevent anyone from destroying the magic formations. If the seawater continued to flood in, the entire human world would be destroyed. They set up a barrier around the chasm with 1 billion people. Even if Zhao Fu used his full strength, he would not be able to shake such a powerful barrier at all. Everyone's expressions were quite unsightly, and they could already imagine the terrifying consequences. In a little more than a day, 50 regions would be flooded, and in 10 days, 500 regions would be flooded. In 100 days, 80% of the southern continent would be flooded. In a year, the southern continent would be completely flooded. Because the various continents were separated by oceans, the seawater would directly flood the Midland continent, the northern continent, the western continent, and the eastern archipelago. In a few years, that world would be completely flooded, and the human world would be in an unimaginable state. The fish scale people would be able to easily take over the human world. The human world would be completely wiped out. That would be the final outcome. Chapter 759. Within the massive barrier, the fish scale people looked at Zhao Fu's group and the system main city lords with disdainful, mocking gazes. A few people talked and laughed, and some people even started to drink wine. Everyone within the barrier seemed quite happy, and they did not place Zhao Fu's group in their eyes at all. No, it was not just that they could not see through Zhao Fu's group. In their eyes, the entire human world was trash. Old man Shi, your plan is quite good. We just need to wait a bit longer, and we'll be able to obtain the entire human world. Now, let's talk about how to divide the human world, an ugly fatty said as he loudly laughed. Another skinny old man calmly replied, "It's still early, and the human world hasn't even conquered a single continent yet. What's there to talk about? We'll talk about it after the human world is destroyed." A handsome-looking young man lightly laughed as he said, "That's right. It's still early, and the other side has the world protector and legatee. Who knows what might happen, so we should be careful." The ugly fatty disdainfully laughed as he said, "Look at those legatees outside. Do you think they can break through the barrier? They can only watch. We're a barrier made by 1 billion people, so I don't believe they can break through it unless they use their world's power. However, the fish-scale world's legatees aren't to be trifled with." A bewitching woman flirtatiously looked at the people outside the barrier and lightly laughed as she said, "Now that the 8 aquatic beast kings have been lured into the human world, our world is much more peaceful. Just the 8 aquatic beast kings are enough to make it difficult for the humans to deal with them. So how can they resist us? It's a pity that I wanted to make some human slaves, but they can't survive underwater, so I can only give up on them. However, I can make them into ice sculptures. If you see any beautiful women or handsome men, please keep them for me." A big man with a mouth full of fangs harumphed as he said, "Who's keeping them for you? I still want to eat a few mouthfuls of human meat, but it's a pity that I haven't tasted it yet." Seeing that the aquatic beasts seem quite happy eating it, it should taste quite good. I also want to raise some to change my appetite. The more beautiful the humans, the better they taste. Hearing this, the bewitching woman looked at the big man with disgust and turned her head away, ignoring him. "What do we do now? We can't waste any more time. Let's join forces and see if we can break this barrier." Seeing that the southern continent was in such danger, Akhenaten said anxiously. Tina Pendragon shook her head. "There's no need to try. This barrier isn't something that we can break. Only if we gather the power of 1 billion people will we be able to break it. I think we should first consider how to defend against the seawater invasion." In just a short while, another dozen or so regions have already been submerged, Masanori Hano suggested as she looked at the surging seawater. Jeffrey thought about it and said, "Right now, we can't break through the barrier, so we can't stop the seawater from entering the human world. We can only build a dam to stop the seawater, and we'll need to mobilize everyone in the southern continent." Akhenaten nodded. "Understand. I'll spread the news later." Jeffrey continued to say, "Also, building the dam is only temporary. Seeing how the seawater is rising, the dam can only stop it for a while. If the fish scale people sneak in and cause damage, it will be even more troublesome. Once the dam is destroyed, the seawater will continue to invade, so we have to get rid of the source as soon as possible. There was nothing they could do about this powerful barrier, and they could only look at Zhao Fu, who had been silent this entire time. Zhao Fu could only shake his head. He could not break through the barrier formed by 1 billion people, even if he used up all of Qin's fate. Zhao Fu tried using the Earth Realm mark, but found that he could not use the world's energy, and he could not help but sigh. Seeing that even Zhao Fu could not do anything, everyone's hearts sank, and their expressions became quite serious. CG said, "Let's tell the entire world about this. It's not something that we can deal with. Not even a single person in the southern continent can deal with it, and the entire world should know about this crisis." Hearing this, everyone nodded. After all, a world invasion was not just a matter of a single continent or a single person. Once a world was invaded, everyone would suffer. Following this, everyone turned into rays of light and disappeared. This matter quickly spread throughout the entire human world, and the various factions were shaken. After hearing that the human world would be destroyed because of this, they realized how serious the situation was, and they could not afford to be careless. At first, they had wanted to weaken the southern continent's strength, but because it would not harm them, they naturally would not do anything. However, now that they were in danger, they had to do something. All of the governmental factions and factions started to discuss how to deal with this matter. Now that the disaster was imminent, everyone was on the same side. No one said that the other side was kind and wanted to resolve this peacefully. After all, if the other side wanted to destroy them and still said that they were kind, they would be truly stupid if they did not do anything. In actuality, those who believed in peace were not stupid either. After all, this greatly threatened their lives, so they naturally would not stand on the fish scale people's side. With the cooperation of the various factions, the massive magic formations were finally able to move across continents, and they could send large amounts of troops to the various continents. Once this was resolved, the human world's battle power would increase by many times. Only by gathering together would they be able to defend against a world invasion. The humans banded together and started to stop the seawater from invading. However, the speed at which the seawater flowed in was still incredibly fast. Even though everyone put all of their efforts into building dams, 400 or so regions were still inundated, which was equivalent to 15 times the size of China. Some system main cities and player factions were able to retreat as soon as they heard that the seawater was coming. However, some villages and wild beasts were unable to escape. Some wild beasts could sense disaster ahead of time, so they had a trace of life. However, the humans did not have this ability. The seawater was like an apocalyptic flood, inundating everything. Before anyone could react, they were all drowned. It was unknown how many people had drowned in 400 or so regions, but corpses could be seen floating on the water. There were humans, other races, and all sorts of wild beasts. The scene was incredibly tragic. The fish scale world also sensed this because as the dams were built, the water level rose higher and higher. The fish scale people were able to sense such an obvious change, as they were a water-type race. Facing the humans' defenses, the fish scale world continued to increase their forces and started to infiltrate the human world. Now that 400 or so regions on the southern side had been inundated, it became their home ground, making it much easier for them to do anything. Chapter 760. The Southern Continent's dam was built with the efforts of countless people in the southern continent. It was 40 meters tall and 10 meters wide. Because the floodwaters were too great, they had used mud to make the dam at first. Later on, they had used boulders and trees to make the dam. Even though it looked incredibly sturdy, it could not withstand a single attack from a city lord. That was not possible, so there were all sorts of restrictions and talismans on the city walls. At the same time, there were 5 billion people gathered here. They came from various continents, and there were players and system indigenous residents among them. Because the fish scale people wanted to exterminate everything, the indigenous residents could only participate. The various city lords and people from other continents also contributed greatly, and all of them contributed greatly. The dam stretched across the southern continent and was incredibly majestic. It could be said to be a miracle, and even though 5 billion people were standing on it, it did not feel crowded at all. The people here imitated the fish-scale world and set up a barrier for 5 billion people, which was also incredibly sturdy. However, because the boundary was so large, the human barrier was weaker than the fish-scale world barrier, as the fish-scale world barrier was all gathered together. With the powerful barrier set up, everyone's uneasy hearts gradually calmed down, and they were no longer as terrified. The human world automatically formed an alliance, and there were not only the governments of the various kingdoms, but also the various dynasties of the various continents. It could be said that the human world's most powerful forces were gathered here. However, even though they were all on the same side, no one was willing to submit to the other. As such, this alliance did not have an alliance master, and it was led by the 12 most powerful kingdoms. By the time news of the apocalypse spread, Zhao Fu had returned to Qin City to recover from his injuries. After a few days of rest, his injuries were as good as new. Your Majesty, even though this is a crisis for the human world, it's also an opportunity for great Qin, Li Si said with a trace of smile as he walked up to the meeting hall. Zhao Fu felt a bit confused, and he smiled as he asked, "What do you think, Li Si?" Li Si replied, "The fish-scale world invasion is a massive crisis for the entire human world, and it will put immense pressure on the human world. Now that Qin is on good terms with the various city lords, we can use this opportunity to take advantage of the fish-scale world invasion. As long as Qin has enough power to protect them, they will definitely choose to submit to Qin. If even Qin cannot defend against this disaster, they will not be able to retaliate at all. They should know about this as well. If they don't believe me, they can go to other continents now. They aren't stupid and will make the smart decision." After hearing this, Zhao Fu realized what was going on and immediately ordered his people to do this. It did not take long before 102 city lords were willing to join Great Qin. This was simply too great of a surprise, and Zhao Fu could not help but loudly laugh. This was not only because of the fish, but also because of continent, Qin continent. Continent. Fish Li's continent. Qin and continent. After all, people trusted and were familiar with Zhao Fu, which made it easier for them to join Zhao Fu. Before, Zhao Fu had not done anything because he was worried that once he attacked, all of the city lords would sense the danger and ally together. Now that there were no restrictions on regions, it was quite easy for them to come and go, and if they allied together, there would be many of them. Even though Vietnam was to the north, so Zhao Fu would not act for now. As long as he attacked in the other three directions, there would be at least 100 regions allied together. If he threatened more people would join him. In actuality, 300 or so regions allied together was quite small, and it was possible that 600 or more regions allied together. If one region had 300,000 soldiers, 10 regions would have 3 million soldiers, 100 regions would have 30 million soldiers, and 300 regions would have 90 million soldiers. It would be quite difficult for Qin to even reach such a force, let alone 600 or so regions. Therefore, Zhao Fu changed his tough style of dealing with the outside world and chose a diplomatic policy of making friends with all sides. Without a strong enough military force to back him up, Zhao Fu would not fight against the outside world. At a time like this, diplomacy was of great use, and they had already obtained 200 or so regions without any bloodshed. Now, the 102 city lords provided Qin with 50 million residents and 10 million Stage 1 soldiers, causing Qin's strength to once again rise. By now, Qin's population had reached 470 million or so people, and it had 60 million soldiers. It was definitely the faction that had benefited the most from the fish-scale people's invasion. Now, another 32 regions had become uninhabited. Qin started to clear out these regions. If everything went according to plan, after clearing out these 32 regions, Qin would be able to level up to a level 4 capital city. Zhao Fu did not send any soldiers to the southern continent, not because he did not want to, but because he did not trust the various factions. Most of the factions had brought players and only a small number of indigenous residents. It did not matter how many players died, as they could revive infinitely, but if indigenous residents died, they died. If they suddenly attacked Qin, it was possible that Qin's army would be wiped out. Even though they were united against the outside world, they still had to be wary of others. The various factions were too wary of Qin, so Zhao Fu had to be careful. In the future, Zhao Fu and Qin's army would act independently and would not work together with the other factions. There were no large-scale battles yet, so the army could be used to clear out regions. After taking care of these matters, a soldier came to report that the southern continent had invited him to attend an important meeting. Zhao Fu thought about it and went. Within a luxurious hall, there were countless chairs, and there were thousands of people gathered. These people were undoubtedly the leaders of the various factions, and they all had high statuses. Tina Pendragon and the other legatees had long since arrived, and they sat in a row of chairs. The scene was incredibly lively, and this meeting was to gather the main forces of the human world to discuss how to defend against the fish-scale people's invasion. After a while, a bearded big man could not wait any longer and yelled, "We've been waiting here for so long. Why aren't we starting the meeting yet?" The person with him tugged at him and said, "There's still one person who hasn't come yet, so of course we can't start the meeting." The bearded big man became even more displeased and yelled, "Who's so arrogant to make so many people wait for him? I am very dissatisfied." The person with him rolled his eyes and said, "He's Qin's legatee. Try saying that again after he comes." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.